So welcome. We are going to start the public hearing for the zone change for the 1,500 square footage requirement for housing here in North College Hill. And the purpose is because currently we do not have a standard on file. So we're going to talk about, well, I'm just going to talk about how we're going to propose a standard of 1,500 square feet. And if there are any people who come into our community who want to deviate from that 1,500 square footage requirement, they will be required to appeal and go to the zoning board in order to facilitate that. But currently, we do not have one. And the purpose for this public hearing is to hear from the public to see their input, and we will take that into account. We do have a few people in the audience. Is there anything that you would like to suggest or add or anything like that?
Just for note's sake, you said they would have to go to the zoning.
Board of zoning. Well, you want to explain?
Yes, if you.
Please do.
Thank you. If you would please take the podium.
Good evening. My name, this is on? Yes, no? Okay.
Yes. Go
My name is Dan Brooks, former mayor, but I'm now the chair of the North College Hill Planning Commission. And I brought with me tonight a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals, which I think was important, and I'll get to that right now. It was brought to our attention, the Planning Commission, that from by Bill Knight, that there was nothing ever completed back in 2017, I believe it was, that actually defined the minimum size of housing in North College Hill. After about a month and a half of discussions, we went all the way from 500 square foot up to like 2,000 square foot. But so we did a little research, and my other life is an architect, and so I designed these things. And one of the members on the Planning Commission is a developer who is very well aware of what's going on around us. So we decided on 1,500 square feet. There was much of it boiled down like between 1,200 and 1,500, but there's an important difference. 1,500 square feet on Joseph Court. When I first moved to North College Hill, my house on Joseph Court was approximately 600 square foot per floor. That's only a 20 by 30 house. But there's a lot of houses here in North College Hill is that size, you know. So we said, well, 1,200 square foot. But today's world, you know, and a lot of reasons why over the years, and you may or may not be aware of it, people moved out of here not because they hate North College Hill, but they can't move up and stay here. So if you have 2 or 3 kids and want a bigger yard and you want your 2-car garage, it's not going to happen on a 600 square foot footprint. So, but we are also looking at alternative housing methods. Okay, what we're looking at is, well, we won't get into a lot of detail here, but we're looking at shared housing, investment housing, and all these things have got different meanings and different things, which I'm sure as council members you'll be getting lots of information on this from us, but they're very interesting. So that would probably be less than 1,500. Okay, but we wanted to protect those persons who wanted to develop something in North College Hill. They had a good development that was enhancement of what we already have. But if somebody wanted to come in here as a one-off, in other words, take a piece of land or a lot in the middle of a neighborhood or whatever, and just plop something that's the 500 square foot shotgun house, we didn't think that'd be good for the advancement of North College Hill. Because it's basically our philosophy is that unless you start aiming higher, you're never going to get in there. And I'm kind of proud and obviously biased about North College Hill, and I think we're the best. So I think we will act like it. So, after a lot of discussion, here's what we recommended to you all. The minimum size is 1,500 square feet, but you don't have to have that. If you want to have a variance to that, then you are advised to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, make your case, which may be a very good case, and then that way the city gets two hits at the apple, right? First of all, the building department comes in. If it's 1,501 square feet, fine, you're good. If it's 1,499 square foot, you're not. And so then you go to Board of Zoning Appeals. And the Board of Zoning Appeals looks at each project on a case-by-case situation. The Board of Zoning Appeals do not. They do not set precedent. Planning Commission sets precedent. Board of Zoning Appeals does not. That's the advantage of having a Board of Zoning Appeals. They look at each case. For instance, if somebody wanted to put, let's say it's a 900 square foot house, but it's only about 3 feet away from the property line, they're probably not gonna get approved. Unless there's a good reason for that to happen, and it doesn't bother the neighbors, it doesn't reduce the property values in the neighborhood and the community, and so therefore, that's up to them though. There's 5 members of the Board of Zoning Appeals. They've done a good job over the years, and we made specifically, if you read our recommendation, specifically noted that we are not saying you cannot do a housing unit less than 15. It's just that if you do, you have to have a reason why. And that's it. That's the whole background of where it was. And this has been going on since 2017. So it's time to do something. Yes, ma'am.
So, just recognizing other zoning commissions across the greater Cincinnati area. So if we were to fall within this, or a builder or someone prospectively would fall within the 1,500 square feet, and they were within the property line, they would not have to come to the.
No, it's just a building permit, right?
So it's only when they.
It's only when they vary, yeah. And the 1,500 square foot, keep in mind, 1,500 square foot is 750 square foot footprint. So it's only 150 square foot larger than the houses on Joseph Court. So it's not that big of a jump when you look at it.
So the process. So in the process, if they wanted to build that property lesser than the standard, they can't automatically apply for it then, so that way it could be looked at going into it.
The process is this, and let me give you my background. I've been in the zoning and the architecture business for 45 years. I never lost a zoning case. So I'm normally the one arguing the cases to other planning commissions and Board of Zoning Appeals. So I have a lot of experience at this, but here's the process, and it's general, it's across the board. A person will come in here and make an application for a building permit for, in this case, it's a house. The zoning administrator, who is Bill Knight in this case, will take a look at it, and if it's less than 1,500 square foot, he will notify that applicant that you have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I cannot approve this. Doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that you have to go through the process. Then a advertisement is sent out by law to people, and I don't know what our ordinance says, to be real honest with you. In the jurisdictions that I've worked in the past and present, it's 250 square foot radius of the property in question. And everybody's notified by mail. And you have to advertise in the newspaper so that anybody who wants to speak that's in that range can come to the Board of Zoning Appeals hearing and testify in favor of or against what's proposed. Normally, unless there's a really, really big problem, normally, things are, I'd say there's a 60% shot that the applicant's gonna get approved. Unless, there's obviously egregious activity going on that would happen if that variance is approved. So because there's 5 things that the applicant's got to pay attention to. And one of them is, how does it affect your neighbors? So it's a process. And at the end of that, now you get the permit. And then it slips over to the building department, and then the building code kicks in. But the good part about all this is that the public has a right to speak, give an opinion on it, and also the applicant has an opportunity to take a look and work with the zoning administrator and with the people that they're affecting, and it works out. And in Northside Chill's case, we're small. We've got a very approachable building department, and it happens rather quickly. In Cincinnati or in Hamilton County, you're talking about 4 to 6 month process. Here, it's a 30-day usually. So it's a big difference.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So the goal, I just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm looking for your clarity, is to bring it out of building and code, and put it in your planning commission.
Building code doesn't address the size at all.
Okay.
It's a zoning issue
Right.
only. It's not a building issue. See,
Right. So,
No.
the goal is to bring the zoning precedents underneath the tutelage of the planning commission, so that you all have the ability to look at it, right?
we won't look at it.
Okay.
Once that's passed by council, if it's passed by council or whatever you do,
Mm-hmm.
we have nothing to do with it anymore.
Okay.
We only become involved if, let's just say, if there is a large development of, let's say, homes in the 1,200 foot range. Okay. That, if it's a large development, we would probably more than likely, again, depending upon the project, we would probably advise laying a PUD on it, which I know is totally Greek to you guys, but it's planned unit development, which takes part of when somebody develops a large piece of land, and there's multiple buildings on this piece of land, like a subdivision and PUDs are usually done in commercial side, but it's also done then we would get involved, because we would then take a look at everything, landscaping, roads, traffic, everything. And there may be one coming up. So, but that then requires the PUD. That's more of a process. The PUD starts with planning commission. Then we have an option to set our own public hearing. And council must have a public hearing. You don't have a choice in it, in that particular thing. So planning commission, council, public gets really involved in the PUD, but we're way in the weeds right now on that. But to answer your question, no, planning commission won't look at it. If everything's there, we got nothing. We don't have any reason to. Anything else?
Okay.
Anyone else have any?
Yes. Now, we've discussed this before privately, and I've always and still see this as an answer in search of a question. My question is and still is, why be exclusionary? Because if this rule was around when you moved here,
Mm-hmm.
about what'd you say, about 45% of the houses that are currently here
Mm-hmm.
don't meet this standard.
Doesn't matter, because it's all grandfathered. It
Right,
doesn't
but-
affect anything that's already here.
Right, but we don't want, but any new construction is beneficial, and
I don't agree with that.
and once again my question is, why create an extra barrier? Why create extra bureaucracy and add an extra month to a home building process, which is already kind of long and kind of tedious.
To answer your question, I don't agree with you as far as any building is good building. Number two, before you got here, I was explaining that the whole idea here is to try to move North Kaito up and forward, because, again, we are losing people because they can't find what they're looking for, the market. We don't have a market for the type of stuff that's going on around us. We just don't have it. And you have to set a standard somewhere. If you set it too low, well, then that's what you're going to get. I'm not saying that people are bad. I'm just saying we got plenty of houses that are affordable. We got plenty of houses that are small. We just don't need to develop any more. We got one chance to get this right.
But it's not stopping us from building. It's not stopping us from building 1,500 square. It's not stopping us from building 1,800 square foot homes. It's not stopping us from building larger. Like it. Once again, if we've already.
No, right. We're setting the bottom limit. Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mr. Curtin? Do I address you or do I address council?
Don't ask me.
You can
He's the boss right now.
address the committee. So a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Oh, sure.
Let's go to the
And
mic.
if it's a hearing, you need to be signed in.
Yes.
Yeah. When you're finished, when you're finished, you can go ahead and sign in.
And
yeah.
go to the mic.
I would like
Yeah.
for you to respond at the podium. Thank you, because you're knowledgeable. So, do I need to say my address and all of the findings of that?
Be on the form.
Got it. Kathy Curitan. So as a homeowner, I purchased our home in 2018. We have small children, and a lot of what you said is correct. North College Hill is limited on our capacity to grow. We can definitely expand, but the idea is to grow. One of the chief concerns that we have is not having enough resources for healthy, fresh food and vegetables, which then causes our community to not be complete food desert, but in comparison to some of our other neighboring areas that have multiple. Let's just go up 2 miles in Springfield Township, and they have multiple avenues for grocery stores within the 3-mile radius. Why is that? Because there are moms and dads and grandparents who are raising their children in a community where that is important. Now, as for myself, I love North College Hill. I'm very, very present, but I feel that our community and our ability to expand is limited. And we also want to create a diverse community where there is huge expansion. Go down Cedar Avenue, okay? Go down any Harbor Center, some of these streets just a mile down the road in College Hill, and look at the growth, look at the ability, and look at where developers are finding empty lots and building new homes. It just happened at Hamilton and North Bend, and those homes are going for $600,000 plus. So if we tap into those resources, what will that do for North College Hill? It will bring people who, hey, I'm moving to Cincinnati to work at P&G or Kroger or GE. Let me consider moving to North College Hill. What will that also bring? It'll allow us to have, and I go back to my original point of North College Hill being somewhat of a food desert, it will allow us to then have a more of a visualization for more of the, not the Krogers, but some of the more smaller grocery stores and industries to tap into North College Hill. Case in point, and again, this all goes back into our community and our neighborhood. We have a vacant building on Galbraith Road where the old Frisch's used to be that could really bring money into our city, but it's vacant. Why is it still vacant? Is it because this is an area that people are kind of drawing away from and not pulling into? It could be either way. My point is, as a mother who's raising our 6-year-old twins in this city, is it important that we have people who are able to grow and not stay in that mentality. The other thing is you have to consider how many, and this is a question someone should be able to answer tonight, of the number of residents of North College Hill, how many are homeowners and how many are renters? That plays a huge role, because then you have these private developers who are tapping into these renters and giving them skyrocket
prices on their rent without allowing them to actually get that understanding of being a homeowner. So I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Davis. I also appreciate what you're saying, but I do believe that if North College Hill has a desire to not just to expand, but to grow, then we have to mimic what our neighbors are doing in Springfield Township, what our neighbors are doing in College Hill, what our neighbors are even doing further north in Colerain Township. And I think it's important that we kind of understand where we desire to go in the next 10, 5, or even 2 years.
Oh, I was just going to make a comment. I totally agree. You don't want your city to be oversaturated with, we already have small homes. We have enough. We want to attract those people who have larger families. They're going to spend more money here. They're going to create, income for our city. We already have, like I said, enough, to me, smaller homes. We want to expand like other communities. When you're going to other communities like College Hill, you can tell those homes are large. They are people who are staying in their community. They're not moving out. And that's when the development comes in, when people are staying in there. But Mr. Brooks, if you would like to.
I agree. No, I mean, that's, you made my point, and as far as the food, I can't, I don't know why Frisch's is still vacant. Probably they're asking some enormous amount of money, but I don't know. But things like that, why you have an economic development director, why you have somebody whose job it is to go and look and follow up on stuff like that. It's why it's an attitude. It's an attitude that a few years ago we had it, is the fact that we are the best. There is no second. Mediocrity is not acceptable. We are the best, and there's no reason that we should accept anything less. Anything. If there's a food desert, then we should build an oasis. I mean, we can't, and I like I say, I agree totally with everyone. As far as the answer to your question, as far as how much rental, I'll have to check on the master plan, but it's in there. They did the date that somebody helped me out. I think it's like 60%.
As of the last master plan, it was about 55, 56%.
Yeah, right.
If I
it's
may,
just short.
I
and that
have
is way too much.
I also have data from the We Thrive. They've just done another community analysis, so
Okay,
if
good.
anyone is interested in that data, I have that as well.
Yeah.
What is the We Thrive data specifically
They've
address?
done demographics
The
in
We-
the area, like renters, homeowners, people with disabilities, people who own a car. They've done all that data research for our community.
I'd be interested to receive data on trends of home buying and what people are gravitating to, because although I do have this idolization of bigger, grander, I love a big, beautiful home myself, but some younger people, like I have a younger daughter who's graduated from college, affluent, looking for home ownership. They're not looking for the same things that our generation is looking for. They're looking to move back towards tiny living with gardens in the front. I'm not trying to derail what we are existing, but I am saying that trends do lead to us having predictability in our forward. And what does that actually look like? Are the trends of where people are buying, who have more money, which is what we want to attract in our community, are they looking to buy bigger, better homes? If that's the case, then this is moving in the right direction. If that's not the case, and that's not where our younger community is moving to, then we are doing ourselves a disadvantage in going in this direction, because we don't want to hinder ourselves from attracting a diverse group, which means young families, older families, and everything in between, single moms. We are diverse in every way. So I guess I'm not saying that this is wrong. I just would like to see where the data is going in terms of buying trends for our forward. It could be right on target. I just don't have any data.
Keep in mind, again, the difference between a 500 square foot home, which wasn't even on the books, by the way. You have nothing. right now. What drove this train was Bill Knight got on a call from somebody who wanted to build a bunch of 500 square foot homes. And we have absolutely nothing to stop it. Now, do you want a bunch of that? Wait, so he came to the planning commission and said, hey, by the way, we don't have, here's the ordinance. It was never passed, 2017. Please do something. And that started the conversation. That's it. And again, we're not saying you can't, but it's got to be, big is not better,
Right.
you know? It isn't. But you got to set a standard somewhere.
And I think there's still always going to be those type homes available. We're still going to have people who are selling their homes and moving out of the city. Therefore, smaller homes are going to be available. And it's not like that option of a tiny home is off the table. You just have to
But
do a couple more steps
You got to start
to get
designing
it,
it instead
to
of
get it approved.
getting something off the shelf
So
and
it's
saying
not
here's a
getting
20
rid
by
of
30
or
house.
excluding anybody. I don't think. That's
So-
just my opinion.
So, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Apologize. Question, Benz, so what if I wanted to take and expand my tiny home?
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm just saying, what is it gonna
This
look like
is
going
a
up to
new- A
1,500?
new construction, I believe that's what the ordinance reads.
I mean,
If you want to build, if you want to expand your house.
right, mm-hmm,
Sure, go ahead.
okay,
You know, I mean, you're going to be adding to the square foot. You're not going to be cutting it down. You're not going to tear it off.
okay.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, I'm just saying, would the process be the same?
No.
As far as,
Nope.
expanding onto
So
your
you
property?
have to get a building permit, but
Just like normal.
we'd have nothing to do with it.
Okay,
So
alright.
nothing happens. The only time the Board of Zoning Appeals gets in the whole picture is if somebody comes in, and if you guys say it's 1,500 square feet,
Mhm,
that's what we're recommending,
mhm.
then they get involved. If it isn't, they don't see anybody except the building department. That's it.
And my last question, my last point, in regards to building wealth and building value, the 11 to 1,200 foot homes that were 40,000 in the 70s
Right,
are
right.
70,000 in the 90s, early 2000s.
Good luck.
They're $150,000, $200,000 now. So that adds to the point that any new construction is going to be beneficial. It's going to add is going to add to the coffers. Any new home that's owned, and North College Hill has always been known as a community of starter homes. And once again, nothing's stopping us from being starter homes, smaller construction. Nothing's stopping us from building or growing bigger.
I'd like to address a little bit of what you're saying.
Okay.
I know it seems like all new builds are beneficial, but we're talking about urban planning 20 and 25 years out. It disrupts our schools when we are a starter home community. And you can look at the school board meetings and see the constant turnover. And you don't want kids going to our schools 2 and 3 years, and then they're off to bigger, better schools and bigger, better neighborhoods. Shotgun homes, and I won't call out any building organizations, but when the buildings don't sustain the community, when they're only 10-year builds and they're falling apart and they look like trash, and then we're having to use our building and code to have those homeowners keep those homes up because they cannot compete with the homes that are around them, that has been a huge problem, which is why we have attracted people who buy those kind of homes, fixer-uppers, and then they rent them out, and then that creates an issue in and of itself. So I don't know that all new builds are good builds. We want to create more stealthy, sustainable home building, and what that looks like in the trends of where young, diverse groups of people are buying. That's what I'll say to that.
Okay.
I agree.
And absolutely. I don't have any disagreement. With that. I'd say, honestly, the way that we nudge toward that is not by making everything more expensive. I think that's more of something on our end to what do we have to do to encourage more owner-occupied homes.
And that's exactly why we feel that if you're going to have a smaller home, fine, no problem, but design it. And the job's not only the city, but I'll throw a plug in, it's for the architects and the developers to have a hand in it, because here's what the concept is, here's what the program is, now design it. And I agree with you, is that those starter homes that I lived 30 years in a starter home,
Me too.
but
Not 30,
but then I saw what it went for sale and how much it sold for. I said, "You got to be kidding me!" But you know, that's the function of the market. That's all. But you got to, you know, if somebody comes in here and says, "Here's what we're going to do, and here's what the price is going to be," no, it's not 1,500 square foot, but it's a good product. It's good for the younger people. It responds, so they don't want a big yard anymore. No, but you know. I mean, look at the apartments down at College Hill. That's the part I could never understand. They're going to pay like, I don't know, $1,400, $1,500 a month down there, where they could buy a house here and have less payment. But what the master plan said was, and this was surprising to us, that it's not the price of the house that's holding it up. It's the down payment. And so Planning Commission is now looking at that point in order to try to attract things and say, okay, how can the city assist young home buyers who are begging for a house, and they can afford the payments less than they could in a condo or an apartment down in College Hill or whatever the place that is south. But they can't.
Right.
And that's the issue.
You're right.
So hopefully we'll be coming back with something on that in a few months. Okay.
Thank you all. Is there anyone else before we wrap it up? Because we do have another hearing right after this.
Lucky you. And I could leave.
Anyone else? If not, we'll bring this to a close at 6:19. And thank you all. Thank everyone who came. It's awesome, great information. And we will, my computer has timed out. Our next steps, after we discuss this in committee, we will get Mr. Dieters to create the legislation, and then it'll come to council, and then the vote. If you would, that would be awesome. And I can get that to the rest of the committee. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
What was that hearing called?
Hold on one second. Repurposing of the CDBG funds. And this is to unattach it to the splash pad. And Ms. Clear will be giving all those details. These are options that we're going to be repurposing those funds for, because there is another route that we're going to take that will be more beneficial for the splash pad. You have?
I have a presentation.
Oh, wow,
Yes.
presentation.
Time is this supposed to
Also,
start?
if I may, can we have 3-minute break between these meetings?
Sure.
Because this is a HUD hearing at this point for this one, and people have to be signed in if
Okay.
they would like to speak.
Okay,
Yes.
absolutely.
Is this, what time was this supposed to start?
For the purpose of repurposing the CDBG funds. And we have Ms. Clear at the podium.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. Can you just give me repurposing?
It's on the cover sheet of your
presentation as well.
Thank you.
I will make sure that you have a digital version of this, that way you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Thank you. This is a hearing to consider the city's intent to repurpose $55,000 in community development block grant funds previously awarded for the Marshall Peter Dumley Park Improvements Project. This is a HUD hearing, Housing and Urban Development, therefore it has to follow a rather strict format. I am understanding that to be. So there are hearing procedures that must be followed. The first is I'm not going to read every slide verbatim, but this one I will, just to make sure we're all on the same page with the process. The first is to please respect the right of all attendees to see, hear, and fully participate in the hearing. In this regard, anyone who becomes disruptive or refuses to follow procedures outlined herein is subject to removal from the hearing. Number 2, no one may speak or ask questions until the hearing facilitator has finished their presentation and formally calls for public comment. Citizens wishing to make public comment or ask a question must be signed in and indicate they wish to speak in the space provided. Citizens will be called to the podium to provide comments, which will be summarized for public record retention purposes. Please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes. 3 minutes is preferred if possible. No comments or questions from anyone seated in the audience will be permitted. Citizens may only speak one time to ensure everyone who wishes to provide a public comment or ask a question may do so. Questions asked will be noted, and a response will be provided within 15 days of the hearing. Public comments and questions will be received until July 10th, 2024, and must be submitted in writing, unless you're here tonight, via email either to malexander@northcollegehill.org or hand-delivered to the North College Hill City offices, or sent via United States Postal Mail addressed to the attention of Mashala Alexander at 1586 Goodman Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45224. Slide number 3 summarizes how the HUD and Community Development Block Grant funding was distributed this year. I will not read this in detail. Needless to say, there was some funding that comes down to the county level. And from the federal level, Housing and Urban Development distributes funds to the county level. And the county level distributes those funds to eligible projects at the local level through the Community Development Block Grant Program. With that in mind, there are certain things that these funds cannot be used for. So when we get to the point where we are asking for public comment, making a suggestion of anything on this list is not going to be accepted by the block grant folks, even if we think it's a great idea. That is just their restrictions. And I'm not going to read all of these in detail, but basically general operating expenses, vehicles, furniture, political activities, general day-to-day maintenance, things like that are not eligible. In addition, you are not eligible to build or improve exhibition or spectator venues, schools, airports, hospitals. Those are also disallowed use of the funding. And construction of new housing or down payment assistance is also not eligible. All right, so to be an eligible project, the project must satisfy 2 requirements. It has to have at least one national objective being met to assist low to moderate income residents or to remove slum or blight. I'm on slide number 5 right now if you're following along.
Thank you.
Sorry. It also needs to involve at least one eligible activity, and I'm not going to read all of those here, but to summarize, the eligible activity must be for a clear public benefit and must not involve an otherwise ineligible use of the funds. So the current project where we are meeting about today, the Marshall Peter Dumley Park improvements, there was an application originally submitted in 2021 during the grant cycle, which is 3 years, for the building demolition and water park installation. The amount requested was $55,000 for the project year 2023. You can see there on slide number 6, there's just a high-level status of where we are on the project, what's been completed so far, and what is still yet to be done. And I'm going to go to slide 7 and 8, because this is the meat of the issue. And I'm going to kind of go over this in detail because the background is complicated, and it kind of explains, it kind of answers the question, why on earth would we take money away from this project? So I will explain that right here. So the final phase of the project is currently estimated by architects and designers to be approximately $275,000 to $325,000, of which $250,000 has previously been committed by City Council from ARPA grant funds. ARPA funds must be encumbered or under contract no later than December 31st, 2024, or the federal government will reclaim those funds. The first round of bidding for the splash pad took place in November of 2023, utilizing the city's routine bidding process facilitated by JMA, who are the city engineers. 5 big packets were picked up, however, only 2 bids were submitted. Both bids were well over $700,000, and so they were both rejected. We had intended to rebid the project in the spring, but we were unable to move forward for various reasons. In March, the recreation director, that is me, I spoke with one of the suppliers and, who had helped with the design and the original planning quote, discovered that the state contract purchasing might be an option that could save time and money for the city. On April 8th, the North College Hill Council Committee on City Community Development and Recreation met. We discussed breaking this phase of the project up into its components, and by that I mean like things like the fixtures themselves, concrete, electrical, and bidding or requesting for quote those pieces individually, either through the state bidding process or through our normal procurement process that we use as the city. In other words, rather than bidding the entire thing as a whole. However, on April 22nd, we met with Hamilton County Planning to discuss projects for community development block grants. So this would be future projects. And it was during this meeting that we learned that the Dumley Park project had been awarded block grant funding for the splash pad. Up until that point in time, I was unaware of that, as were, we've had turnover in a lot of the key positions that would have held that institutional knowledge. And so the people, city leadership at that point in time, were unaware that this funding had been awarded specifically for this project. And then during the course of the conversation, I was further informed that because the HUD community block grant funding is tied to this project, we are not permitted to proceed with state contract funding or using our own bidding process. We must use the block grant bidding packet and procedure to bid the rest of the project, as long as that money is tied to this project. In addition, that means that it's going to push the project out. We are at risk of the project ending up after December 31st, which means the federal money that we had originally committed will go away. And there's nothing we can do about that. So in addition, even if we do bid it again using their procedures, there is no guarantee that that project bid is going to come back anywhere close to the budget that we know we can absorb for this project. There's no guarantee we wouldn't get exactly the same or even higher now, because we're 6 months out from when we did it last time. All right, so those are the funding issues. And on slide number 9, so we propose to repurpose the $55,000 in block grant funding currently awarded for the Marshall Peter Dumley Park Improvement Project to another eligible project, so the city can proceed with state bidding and RFQs for the Dumley Park project. This will allow the project to be completed hopefully this year, at the very least reasonably assured we can encumber the funds this year to be under contract. And it would allow the city then to take that same $55,000 and apply it to another eligible project for the benefit of the city, since we were unable to apply for the next 3-year window of funding. That window of opportunity closed on April 30. So there on slide 10 are about, I don't know, 5 or 6 suggested projects. And I will kind of just read the titles of those. Citywide Traffic Calming and Demonstration Study. That is very similar, but not the same. It's similar idea to what they have been doing in other areas of the city, where they temporarily put the curbs and delineators to test different traffic patterns to see if it assists with traffic calming or pedestrian safety. That's what a traffic demonstration study is. Galbraith Road Business District beautification is another project. Alleyway beautification and security improvements would be another potential project. Launching a home improvement repair program, and what that would be is street-facing improvements. Basically, homeowners, it's a reimbursement type grant, can apply. They could make facade type improvements to their homes, similar to the way a business would, and be eligible for funding for that process. And then the other option that we thought about was to acquire, there's a property 6602 Betts that is currently owned by the CIC. And I believe we've had some discussion about turning that into a community garden. This funding would be an eligible use. That project would be eligible for this funding. And last, this is kind of a stretch idea to acquire the building that is currently for sale at 1590 West Galbraith Road and renovate it for use by potentially the DAV, American Legion, Historical Society, groups like that also operate within the city. Now that is expensive. That exceeds $55,000. So that it's out there as an idea. The purpose of this hearing is to accept public comment regarding these potential projects, or if there are other projects that the citizens might suggest that we could consider. Next steps would be that we would take this information from this hearing, and we would therefore come up with an action plan and submit that repurposing action plan to the county facilitators for the Community Development Block Grant. There's a packet of information that we would need to submit, including the minutes from this hearing. Everyone signed in. What did we discuss? What were the ideas? And what were the public comments? So that is why we have to be very strict about making sure that we get these comments and these suggestions documented accurately. So there will be no back and forth. There will be, make your suggestion, make your comment, provide your feedback. If there is a question that's an easy that I can kind of answer right away, we can do that. But otherwise, in the interest of time, everyone will have a chance to speak and make your thoughts known. I believe this is being recorded, so it'll be pretty easy for us to get that summarized. If there are any questions that cannot be answered in a reasonable amount of time here, we will answer those questions within 15 days. All right, and I will open the floor for public comment. I'm going to go look and see who's signed in. I will probably speak from here just because that way I'm not constantly running back and forth from the podium.
Thank you. So I saw the suggestions, and I have a suggestion / question. So I mean, we've been talking a lot about a splash pad, and while that's that would certainly entertain the younger people in the community, I was thinking more of a broad scale, like, why can't we have a swimming pool? I actually went to Mount Healthy swimming pool for the first time. It's not like a big, sloping, broad, it's not huge, it's not tiny. I thought it was, I was like, I think that we could do that. I think that's something we could do. So that's my suggestion.
I have that noted. Thank you. I have Mary Jo Zorb.
Hi, thank you. So my question is more procedural. If we do reassign this, what is the process to put the money on? I'm just going to pick one. Is there a bidding process for the citywide traffic calming study? Like, what's the process on the back end if we reassign this?
Just to restate your question, if we were to be interested in pursuing the traffic demonstration study, what would be the next steps?
And that was just one example.
Oh.
Any of them, I just need to know what the process is to get the money. Is there another bid process? Like, how far down the road are we to actually get the money? I'm not making myself clear at all, am I?
I understand.
I think I can answer the question quickly. That doesn't need to wait. The funding has already been awarded. Right now, it's just pegged to one project, and we want to peg the funding to another project. So there's a packet that I would have to submit to the county development for whatever project we want to move the funds to. And then they would review it the same way they would have reviewed our initial application and determine, yes, we're going to bless this new project, and then the funding is therefore allowed to be used for that new project.
So I'm asking what that timeline looks like, though. Do we know?
However long it takes me to get the application together, and then we have to probably come to committee and determine which project do we want to peg those funds to. That is a decision for the city leadership, not one person.
I'm going to piggyback off of what Ms. Zorb is asking.
To be clear, Ms. Dukes-Dean is now speaking.
So I think I'm asking for clarity from you. We can't use the $55,000 that we were awarded for this project towards the splash pad, so we have to find another project to use this money towards. These things listed on slide 10 are suggestions that you've come up with. Ms. Zorb is asking, once we make a decision on whatever it is that we do, the timing that it takes, and you're saying it's based on however long it takes for you to complete an application. An extension of the question that Ms. Zorb asked, some of the items on this slide 10 are less than the value of the $55,000, some of them being more. For the ones that are less, would we put two projects together to make or absorb the entire $55,000? And for the ones that are more, then we would have to come up with alternate funding to supply the difference of where there is more. And that is also subject to whatever application you have to submit. And is it likely that that application submission is denied or whatever? I know you said we have the funds, but if our project is more, how do they see that?
I will research the answer to those questions and get back with you on that.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Clear, we don't have the answer to any of it. Like what about if we were to do two lesser projects?
I have not asked them that specific question, so I would need to ask them and get back to everybody on that.
Okay.
So, my question here is,
This is Mr. Victor Wilson speaking.
on slide 10, everything that was suggested, are these the only suggestion or ideals that we have to run with?
Those are suggestions provided by other projects that we know we want to kind of had on the radar screen. But any suggestion that is presented by a citizen will get onto the feedback list, or council, or whoever. I'm going to let other people speak first before I let someone speak a second time. Hearing no one, I will. Oh, I beg your pardon. Oh, I did not have you down as wanting to speak. I'm sorry. That's on your own document. It's the correct document, but there's no little checkbox that says you wanted to. Yes, that somebody did. Yes. You would like to speak, though? Okay, you can take the podium. Thank you.
Hi, Kathy Curitan. So a couple of questions. One is, I am a proponent of following all rules. I just want to make sure I understand the public hearing procedures. And I've Googled them in depth, and I cannot find them. So I'm just curious to know if you can provide us with maybe a link or some sort to where these particular public hearing procedures are coming from. Because this is not just something we want to brush over. This is something that's been on the books for North College Hill for a number of years, a long time. The questions that I have for you are in retrospect to slide. So I would like to get an answer to that question.
I beg your pardon, which slide?
Well, the first question was in reference to slide 2. if you can provide us with the link for the HUD public hearing procedures. They are very intense, and I want to make sure that compliancy is there from everyone. I just could not find those. I want to make sure that I understand the rules today and in the future. And slide 10 is in retrospect to your estimated project costs for the city suggested projects. A couple of the items here have been on the discussion, i.e. the citywide traffic calming, and how through the wisdom of Mr. Huffman, he has suggested a more economically priced opportunity that provides similar results. And so I think that it would be healthy for the city to look at everything that we have, even beyond the suggested projects, and find out how we want to really allocate it. Ultimately, the splash pad or something similar for our community would be necessary. A lot of the projects that are here really doesn't add direct value for the residents, for them to take part in. Yes, we want a clean, beautiful community. Yes, we want an opportunity for even homeowners to work on projects to beautify their home. But I think what we really want is something where other residents can come together, meet each other, have not, I want to use the word alliance, but really come together and say, hey, I am North College Hill. Let's figure out how we can make our city better. Another question I have for you.
One second.
Yes.
I'm trying to take notes as you're going.
Not a
I beg your
problem.
pardon.
It's okay.
Thank you.
No problem. I'll segue into the next question. There are quite a few questions that are being asked tonight that are not provided with an answer, which is perfectly fine. Will all questions be documented and made available to all attendees tonight so that we can go back and reference within the next 15 days?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how will we receive that response?
You have provided contact information, including an email address here.
So will you
And
provide?
in addition, I believe that there's requirements to publicize the questions or the minutes from this meeting, in which all this would be summarized.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand and know where to look, where will that publication be posted?
On our website initially, yes.
All right. And then last question for you is in regards to the deadline. And forgive me because you said it so fast, and I do understand and respect the time. You mentioned that no one knew that the grant was allotted to the city. And I'm just curious, how would we know in the future, and mistakes happen, it is what it is, but how will we know in the future to keep a better visualization on any funding that is awarded to our city so that we don't miss out on any money that's pretty much free? How can we ensure that we don't miss future deadlines and applications where we actually are winning, but we don't get it because no one knew? How do we avoid that?
Thank you very much. I don't have anyone who indicated they would like to speak. Anyone else on the sign-in sheet? Mr. Davis.
Okay, I can offer comment. So now my first question is, so are we allowed to split up and allocate this 55K into different things, or does this need to just be one program?
That it's similar to a previously asked question, so I will make a note that you are also have the same question or similar question.
Okay.
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay, because I have listed what the things I'd like to prioritize, the things I'd like to get done, but I just want to make sure that it's possible, make sure it's doable before I run these down.
The best thing to do, I would suggest now, is to get your suggestions on record.
Okay. All right. So I've got purchasing 60 trash cans to begin a community recycling and cleanup program. My first estimate, I had a $15,000 estimate on that. Apparently, it might be closer to 30, so somewhere between 15 and 30,000. A social housing feasibility study. So social housing, it's a process where we leverage city assets to build in order to build new housing in order to add to our housing stock. I had it listed that feasibility study as about 7,000. A architectural rendering for a tear down and rebuild of the city building. I'm blanking on the address. The current city center. An architectural rendering for a rebuild of the city center. Got that as 10,000. And I had it listed to see if we can contract with people working cooperatively, but there's listed that to launch our own home improvement repair program. So people working cooperatively generally does about the same things as this home improvement repair program. So either whichever one would be best or the best use of the funds. I'm fine with that. And finally, if it's possible, to create and to purchase 5 scholarships to Mortar. Mortar is a county program. Basically, it teaches entrepreneurship, and it helps people to it helps young people, honestly, young and old, to into entrepreneurship, building businesses, and building structures for the benefit of the community. Though those classes are normally $295 apiece, I'd like us to purchase 4 or 5 in order to allow city residents to attend that program.
Thank you for your suggestions. One thing I did fail to call out that I meant to is on the suggested list, we did cross-reference both the eligible projects list from the block grant people, but also our currently in the works that we've spent 2 years working on is the comp plan. So a lot of the, there is cross-reference to a similar item here that we've already kind of researched for the comp plan. So I didn't mention that before, and I meant to. So if you're talking in terms of where do we come up with these ideas, or some of them anyway, they were drawn from the comp plan. Okay. So I just, not to engage in a back and forth, I just failed to call that out before, and I wanted to make sure that I did get that called out.
No problem.
Are you able to be more specific and tell us which ones?
Referring to slide 10, I will give you an example. Alleyway beautification and security improvements, to install decorative security lighting, plant trees, designate certain alleys as foot and bicycle traffic only is the description. The comprehensive plan alignment was in commerce and transportation. Both of those sections had similar suggestions. The block grant eligible activity is street improvements and tree planting. Each one of the suggested projects cross-references both the comp plan and confirms that it would in fact be an eligible activity in terms of the block grant funding. That is not to suggest that anything else that we've just heard would be ineligible. It may very well be eligible. I just have to get it all documented and go from there. Has everyone who would like to speak had a chance to speak? Ms. Dukestein, I believe you wanted to speak a second time.
I just have a question. So, well, one is a statement. First of all, the comprehensive plan, we haven't had it before council, even though I'm not necessarily opposed to following anything on it, but we haven't actually gotten it before council in terms of being able to vote on it. And then these specific things that are on this list, in order to go further or make more suggestions, do they have to be stated in this meeting, or can they be sent to you like via email? Because
they would need to be submitted through the procedures outlined in the public hearing notice, which was the comments submitted in writing after this hearing, would need to be sent to the attention of Marshall Alexander
Okay.
in
I just
writing,
wanna
either via email or through regular mail.
And up to July the 10th. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Curitan, you can speak a second time.
I just wanted to reference slide number 9. If we can clearly define the word eligible as it is underlined. And I just want to make sure that we know if we've got this money, we don't want it to, if we have this money at our exposure, we want to make sure that disposure is correct. I want to make sure that we understand what is considered eligible, and then part B of that question is to know when does a decision have to be made on the allocation of the funds.
To answer your first question, the eligible projects are outlined on slide 5, the types of projects that would be eligible. In terms of the literature that I received from the block grant people, and I can ask for clarification on that.
Timeline. She asked the timeline. I'm sorry, I'm just reminding you so I can take the notes.
I had a similar question on the timeline of the process to apply and repurpose the funds. Next steps, is that different from your question? I had a question earlier that what are the next steps? What is the timeline?
She asked,
Well, I
when
would
do
like if she could please clarify her comment.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dukestein. You are on target for that. Just to clarify, if we've already been awarded $55,000, that's my understanding, and I could be misunderstanding. So clarify, please. If we've already been awarded the money, then when does a decision for its allocation have to be made by?
I will ask them that question and get clarity.
And can I ask one more question?
Mr. Davis.
Okay. So now I'm confused because I actually scratched the list, which would be to the construction of a basketball court on one of our park facilities, because slide 4 says maintenance or repair of a public park is an ineligible use, or a spectator venue is an ineligible use. But on slide 5 it says a park or recreational facility would be eligible. So if improvements to a park are eligible, I'd like to add the suggestion or request that we build a full court basketball court in one of our park facilities.
Okay, that'll be noted.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Nichols.
Good evening. Thank you. I just have one question as it pertains to the eligible list. I see the code enforcement is listed. I would like to know what that details or entails. I mean, could you use it for salaries? Is it just what can we use? What does that mean? What does code enforcement mean? Because, there's a huge facet of things that falls under code enforcement. So if hiring another employee and applying those funds towards it, or is that an option or no?
To be clear, you're referencing slide 5?
Yes.
Okay. Last call. All right, hearing.
Can you tell me what are you gonna respond that via email? I just wanna.
Yes, because
Okay.
I need
in addition, I think that piggybacks on what Ms. Curitan was asking earlier
Okay.
for clarification on what those eligible bullet points actually mean, like in more depth.
Okay.
All right, we'll go ahead and conclude the hearing. Thank you.
All right. Sorry for the delay out now. The time is now 7:08 p.m. and we'd like to start the Public City Committee meeting for July 8th, 2024. First up on the Public Safety Committee meeting agenda, a departmental presentation from Public Works Supervisor Dave Huffman.
Good evening, everybody.
How you doing, sir?
Good, yourself? So here at Public Works, we've actually been quite busy in the month of June. We have been street sweeping on a bi-weekly schedule with also fitting some side streets in there during some rain days. Here recently, we have covered Galbraith, Clovernook, Hamilton, Simpson, on and off ramps for the highways, Goodman, Catalpa, Noble, Gilbert, Carpenter, Savannah, Pin Oak, Bobwood, NorCal, Foxwood, and Mulberry. We have been focusing on our mains.
Sunday.
Yep. We have been down Sunday, yep. We also did just recently get our street sweeper fixed, so we now have both brooms operating, and we are working at maximum speed for that. We've also been doing a lot of alley trimming this year. If you go by Veterans Park and you go by Stapleton Park, you'll now see that both tree lines are completely cleared out. We have removed dead stumps, honeysuckle, and starting the process for cleaning up those areas. As far as our road projects go, I am glad to say that all of our projects are in the final stages. We have a base layer on all of our roads. Bobolink, we had an issue with a pipe that imploded on itself. We were able to get that fixed also. So all roads are in the final stages of construction. Also in the month of June, we had several large trees removed from Schaefer Park, North Ridge, and a complaint tree at Carroll, which the city owned. So we've had those removed. We have continued to do our trash runs and litter picking 5 days a week, anywhere from our 4 to 5 hour mark still. We have Hamilton County Youth kids that have come in and are helping us do that also. We are emptying our trash cans every Monday, Wednesday, Friday throughout the city. We recently just took over underneath the Walgreens sign and removed all the old landscaping, mulch, debris, and litter from there. And we are in the process of redoing that. We started with some smaller plants, and with the hot weather, we have cut back. We are currently watering the finished landscape project on Hamilton Avenue Islands. So that was a big thing for us. The first couple weeks, we've been watering 7 days a week to make sure that they establish their roots and get a good hold. Oh, Lord. We are also in the process right now of having our international dump truck repaired. It is at Rush Trucking. It has been there for about 2 weeks. We are still looking at quite a few repairs. We were approved by Miss Janetta Anderson to go ahead and start with the initial repairs, estimating between $5,500 and $6,000 to get the truck back up and running. We are also getting ready to send out all of our salt spreading equipment to have everything repaired there so we can come and start training for our salt and snow removal season here in the next coming months. There have been a few different complaints for traffic signals. Hamilton Avenue at Ronald Reagan coming from Mount Healthy was a major one. We did contact Capital Electric and had it fixed immediately. It was on a delayed timer that had gotten switched at some point, so it is back to normal. We also did a yearly inspection and traffic signal and walk signals inspection. Right now, we did have a majority fail on most of our traffic signals and walk signals, but they did go ahead and clean and fix and repair what they can. We are still getting the final estimate what it will take to improve and get those back up to standards. As far as everything else goes, the Public Works has continued to stay busy. We're still doing our normal cleanups throughout the city every day, weeds, spraying weeds, and just moving forward as we go with different projects. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you for that extensive list of things that you guys have done, and I want to say that I know, it's no secret, that I complained about that street sweeper for a long time. It wasn't the street sweeper that I complained about, it was the financing part of it, and that is our job, and it ended up on the audit, so I feel vindicated for that. So, I'll say all that to say, I love sitting at my desk working, in my dining room, and I hear the on Fridays, because I know the street sweeper is coming down my street.
Yes, ma'am.
And I go out and I wave and I talk to them. So, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I love seeing it. I'm very happy to see it. Thank you. And thanks for getting it fixed.
Yes,
too.
ma'am.
That's not all I had to say, though. So, I heard you say you cut down a bunch of trees. I
Yes.
am also on the tree commission.
Yes, ma'am.
So, how can we follow behind you and put in healthy trees where you're cutting down dead trees?
So I know before the previous committee meeting, I think it was in June, we had a small discussion about the Dunstan Memorial, in which we talked about possibly putting, a plaque and a tree back into Schaefer. I have spoke with Ms. Williams also through text message of looking into different types of fruit trees to put back in certain areas. So we are definitely want to sit down on a plan to where if the space is available in the certain areas, if we remove one, we try to plant two. This is a method that I learned through the Tree City at Green Hills with Mike Castor, their director over there, and it's something that I think we could definitely push forward with as we remove, we replace, we move, we replace, and it becomes a continuous cycle each year.
I love that. Let's work together on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Yes, Ms. Wilson.
Mr. Hoffman, I got, a few questions for you. So, you said you got the street sweeper back up. How long have you had it up?
So it has been running for a week. We actually had him out last week. He was there all day Wednesday. Obviously, we were off for the 4th, and then he did replace the glass on our backhoe that was broken too. So we will have it back to running a normal route this week.
Okay, so what's your normal route for it?
So we run it bi-weekly is our normal route. Our mains, on and off ramps, Simpson, Galbraith, Clovernook. And then as we get done with those, we move into the side streets, depending on where our operator has seen the worst of debris, street litter, gravel. He comes back to me and says, hey, I have a list of a couple of streets that I would like to go ahead and take a look at, and we can move forward with that after we've gone and inspected them.
All right. And my next question is, so I've noticed that it's a lot of sidewalk damage. My primary issue is that telephone pole from the Mother's Day accident that took
Yes.
out the power.
Yes.
That sidewalk has not been repaired, and it is dangerously unsafe.
Yes.
So what is our steps to getting that taken care of?
So unfortunately, and I have spoke with the homeowner actually just recently, yesterday to be exact, I have given her suggestions for her downspout to be repaired. We also reached out to Duke as they were part in lifting up the sidewalk when they put in their new pole. We are still waiting to hear back from them. But at this point, it would be my suggestion that the incident that occurred there, the person be held liable for it, and we move forward with looking into getting an estimate for that. The biggest concern that I have right now is her downspout drain that leads from her house goes directly through that sidewalk curb there. And I want to make sure that we do not cause a flood to her house to where the city is not held liable. So once hers is fixed and it is left open, as I discussed with them, we can then go in and have concrete poured over top once her end is taken care of, the homeowner end.
So just a real question about that. So what end is hers?
The downspout line, so
That
it,
the green
the green
pipe
pipe,
that's coming
yes,
out
sir.
of there?
That leads into our inlets, our storm waters. So when we have heavy rains, it comes down her downspout through that pipe so it doesn't flood her yard or her neighbors. And then that is what she would have to have fixed first because it is a private pipe. And then we would come back through and then do the concrete sidewalk.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Mr. President, or Mr. Chair, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, in part, Ms. Zorb, can you guys, look into planting some fruit trees?
We are,
Okay.
we are,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I have spoke with Miss Williams and through text message that it is our intention to find fruit trees and to look into planting them when we have some rain and have some better soil conditions.
So, would those be like, if we were to add fruit trees, would those be like the, islands where they have to go out and be watered in the time?
Yes,
Okay.
we would have to water them. We would put tree bags around them, and we would fill the bags up. Roughly, right now, the ones that we have, I believe they hold 30 to 45 gallons of water per tree bag. They're the Rhino bags, so we did buy extras just in case for later down the road. But yes, we would water them daily, just as we would as our normal routine would go.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I chime in?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Just to add a little more detail. So we have already, the tree commission has already decided what two kinds of trees, and it's failing me right now what they are. We're going to plant 2 different kinds of fruit trees, and then we're going to plant black raspberry.
Yes, I believe it was black raspberries or elderberries, I believe.
There are
Bushes.
elderberries
Yes,
along.
the elderberries
this-
did get planted, okay.
And then we're going to go with thornless black raspberries.
I know pear
That's our
trees,
plan.
pear trees do really well in our area as well.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. Wilson.
So where are we planting these fruit trees at?
So we've been working on removing Schaefer Park would be one of the first ones that we would definitely look into, as we did just remove some dead trees over there. It is our biggest space, so I feel that with tree commission's obviously opinion too and input, I would say that would be a good starting point for us. And then as we remove some throughout the city, we just slowly incorporate that program together.
Yes, Ms. Dean.
Sorry, one more thing, and I know you're probably on top of it, but I think like there are some trees that are more absorbent of a carbon print than others. So if we can kind of direct our tree planting towards those ones that really get toxins out of the air. I know fruit trees are really good, but also, you know, and service our area in terms of our weather, that would be good.
So I don't know that we took that aspect into consideration. What we did look at is that they are native plants and not invasive plants, and that the fruit falling does not cause a major bee attraction if we're putting it in parks where kids will be playing.
So just 2 cents. I think the bees are not as troublesome as the wasps, because wasps attack no matter what. Bees are good. They're our friends. They're not very aggressive in nature. But if we're going to enhance our tree planting, making sure that the carbon print is reduced is a really good way to kind of dig into making sure that we get some of those trees in. I'd be happy to help with that list if you want.
Yes, ma'am, we definitely like to have that.
All right. Any other questions? Any other feedback? Okay. Thank you again. Thank you again, Mr. Hoffman. Appreciate you for a detailed report and getting a lot of work done this month.
Yes, ma'am, or yes, sir.
All right. And next up, we've got Interim Police Chief Craig Cheney.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for moving this meeting and letting us present, because we put work into this, so I appreciate that. I gave everybody kind of a brief breakdown of some June numbers, but I kind of want to just give you a breakdown on my aspect of what you're looking at. So for June, we had calls for service. We had 1,073 calls for service. Our officers also conducted 211 traffic stops and recorded 1,021 daily activities. And we went on 39 mutual aid runs for a total of 2,133 runs for the month of June. That is with 9 police officers, which breaks down to 71 calls a day and 237 calls per officer for the month of June, or 15.8 details a shift per officer, which some officers, obviously, since we're in the month of June, took vacations, so that leaves the burden on the officers who filled in overtime for them to work and take more calls. We had 81 arrests, 123 citations were written, and 88 warnings were given in traffic. I cannot say enough about what our guys and girls did this month. We always are a lot busier when it gets warmer. It's just the nature of the job. And for them to put in this many calls and run this much and work overtime is a testament to the men and women of the agency. I couldn't do it without them. They are the backbone, obviously, of our agency. Some good news. On Thursday, we are receiving a $10,000 donation from the Eagles at 6:30 up at their facility. They also gave the same amount to our fire department, and then they also donated a large sum to Mount Healthy's police and fire. So I've already talked to Ms. Janetta. That fund is going to go into our firearm fund, which then will enable us to purchase all brand new pepper ball guns. The ones we currently have are like 15 years old. They're outdated. It's hard to get parts for them. So this will enable us to give our officers another tool that's less lethal. Crowd control, domestic violence, barricaded subjects, you name it, we can use these tools for. So it'll be a great asset for us.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry, would you say that gives you an ability to purchase?
Pepper ball guns. And then there's some new stuff that we're also looking at. We're also going to do a demo tomorrow at the old 1500 in a tow lot. They're going to come out and demo some stuff for us as well. So to see what we can purchase for officer safety. And obviously, since it's a less lethal item, it's safer for the suspect as well. So we also this month rejoined the OVI task force, which is going to open us up to a lot of grant money to come for the city. Just on the face of it, we get 12 hours a month for traffic safety that we submit. It doesn't matter if it's a lieutenant or just a regular patrolman. They will reimburse the city for 12 hours. We also then get access to click it or ticket money. I think that is usually like in May or June. We can do OVI task force stuff where we can flood the city with officers to do OVI stuff, and we would get reimbursed for that. We are looking to actually do an OVI checkpoint at some point in the fall, maybe October or November. They try not to do those in December, January, February because it's rather cold outside, and standing in Hamilton Avenue doing a checkpoint for OVIs is not something that they generally do. So you're going to notice new decals. We just finalized new decals for every car that we have except for the Ford Explorers. Those are really old, and we're trying to phase those out. We're going to a new decal that I think everyone's really going to like. It's going to provide more safety for our officers. It's kind of like a ghost decal, so in the daytime you'll only see like a shadow of it and then our patch. But at nighttime, when we really need the protection for the officers, the entire decal will actually glow in the light, and in the dark. So it'll provide more safety for our officers. So I think you guys are going to look at it. You really like it. The first car will probably be done in about a week or so. We just purchased our second vehicle for the year. The first Durango went up 2 weeks ago to Tri-State to get all its lights and sirens and everything put on. And when it's done there, it'll get its decals, and then it'll probably be another 8 weeks before we get the second car up to there, because it's about a 10-week wait for all the equipment to come in and get put on the car. So, and then the last thing I have, we are doing some joint training this month with Corning Township. We are doing building search training this coming Thursday and the following Thursday, and then that will piggyback to additional training probably in August for like active shooter training. Obviously, they just had a serious threat in one of their stores, so we're going to piggyback off of that and do some of that training with them as well, and that'll qualify our officers for 16 hours of their continuing educational training for the year.
Is that free?
Yes. Yep. Mutual aid, Corrines more than willing to help, and they want, because they realize, like we do, our guys went to Kroger and responded as mutual aid. We're mutual, like I said, we had 39 mutual aid calls the month of June. I'm sure probably a good portion of those were in Corning Township. So we work so closely together, it makes sense for us to do joint training. That way when our officers arrive on scene, we know what their officers and our officers are going to do the same thing when we clear a building or we're doing an active shooter. We're going to do the same tactics. So it makes sense to do that.
Good.
And that's all I have.
One more question, please.
Absolutely.
The OVI, I heard you say we rejoined. Were we not?
So I would say we weren't a part of it. We just weren't very active for quite a while. I can't answer why, but we're going to be active because it makes more sense for us. I mean, it's free grant money that we get that they take care of. Literally the 12 hours, I fill out who worked it, what the hourly rate was. They'll reimburse even the OP&F portion of it and the insurance portion of it for those hours. I submit the form to Blue Ash. City of Blue Ash cuts us a check, and then they just take care of the rest from the federal grant money. So the check comes straight from the City of Blue Ash.
Okay. So, I'll wait to budget and finance. Go ahead.
And Chief Cheney,
Yes.
one question. Now, have you heard anything, any updates from Hamilton County regarding the 2 major cases from last month?
Yes. So they told me last week they have the suspects from the shooting that took place at DDK Apartments. They're just trying to finalize some final steps before they make some arrests. And the homicide's in the same position. They're just crossing their I's and dotting their T's before they make an arrest.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief Cheney, so I have a question. You have on your report, it says call for service by call group, and then one of the items listed is code 6. Can you tell me what a code 6 is?
So a code 6 is if we were to get a call at the station, and that way it doesn't come through dispatch. So say you called
So
for
the non-emergency number.
Yeah, non-emergency number, and we go out to a residence, we would say code 6 to the county, and then we would tell them what we're there for.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
And then, I'm not trying to beat up on you, I swear, but we just talked about trees, and this is a very, very thick report.
Well,
So
I pared it down.
Can I ask a couple of favors? So first of all, can we print front and back?
I don't know if the program allows us to do that. I have to figure that out.
And
Because it
then-
comes straight from our reporting system. I have no control how that's set up. It's
All right.
set up through them.
Well, I was also wondering because a lot of these sheets just have,
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how because it tells you
One
what it
little line
is.
on it.
Yeah, it tells you what it is, and then the next page is the information. I know it's not
if there is
the
any
greatest
way
setup,
to
but
fix that.
I
Because
would
there's
have
a
to
lot
reach
of
out to
There's a lot of them.
the PO9 folks. So
All right.
they're still working on trying to replace the name at the top. So
All right. Thank you.
you're welcome. I'm with you though, but if I printed the entire report that has so much information on it, you would probably get 1,000 pages. That's how in-depth it is.
Then.
So I pare it down
Mr.
as
Huffman would have to
much.
plant a lot more trees. for us
Yes.
then.
So I try to pare it down as much as I can to give you guys an
Thank you.
overview of what we're doing. So.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions, sir? All right. All right. Thank
All right,
you,
thank you.
Chief Grady.
Yep.
Appreciate you. All right.
I'm gonna give everybody a 2-minute break. Let's reconvene at 7:35. For the record, I'm gonna mention something you said in your report, but you don't need to be here for it. I just was letting you
Are
know.
you finished?
Yeah, he said he was close, didn't you?
No, I was moving along. To
Oh,
the,
I'm so sorry.
okay.
I told you not over 30.
My
I'm
bad.
sorry.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is a presentation from Interim Fire Chief Joe Plackey. Now, Chief Plackey isn't here, but is you represent the fire department today, sir?
Move on.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. Next up, old business. We aware of any old business that needs to be taken care of? Okay. Now,
I might have something, I'm sorry.
yes, ma'am.
Mr. Huffman, so I know, Ms. Alexander, there was a report, actually, this is a combo. So I know the traffic,
Traffic counter?
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll say one word, you say the next one.
Yes, ma'am.
The traffic counter was put on Center Ridge, and I believe the report came back that no one was 5 miles over, but the citizens are reporting that it's quite different. So I'm wondering if the issue was placement, and maybe it could be put back on Center Ridge, just in a different place, and maybe we could get some better readings.
Yeah, we can definitely
Is
do
that-
that. Me and
Yeah,
Chief
we
Cheney.
discussed that.
Yeah.
We just have to find a spot because the issue that we ran into the last time, someone parked over it and we lost like 2 days of data.
So let's just put
So
a cone over it. Can we
it-
put some,
So what we'll actually do is we will take away parking with temporary parking signs,
perfect.
and then we will move forward with that. If you would like to meet us out there and give us a better idea, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So this week we put it on,
We have not put it out yet.
we're gonna put it on the back, the other side, the west side of Galbraith to see what our numbers are there. And then we'll
Ooh,
jump back to
can't wait to see
Center Ridge.
those numbers.
It'll probably be as bad as the other part.
Yes, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, Mr. Hoffman, I got another question for you too. And it just came to light. Last week I had a gentleman come in, and he was concerned about the street next to Long John Silver's. I can't think of the name of the street.
It's Merle.
But when I went down there to, to take a look at his issue, it's dead smack in the back of North College Hill High School. Like,
Please refresh my memory of what issue it was. I'm sorry.
so hit that entire street. The sidewalks are gone. It's like, I'm assuming that we went out and patched it up a couple of times, but I mean, it's like it hasn't had no attention in years.
On
I mean,
Laboida?
I'm like literally.
On Merrill or Laboida?
I don't know. I know it's to the side of it's the
The dead end going
right
between
next to
Long John Silver's
Yeah, if
and,
I'm
I
coming-
believe
if
Mr.
I'm
Dieter's
going up
office.
and make a left,
That's Merle.
if I'm
Okay.
going up and make a right on the side of Long John Silver,
Mhm.
that whole entire street is horrible.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying the side, like the curve ain't even there.
Yeah.
Like no one can tell, the city curve from the, I mean, if someone could take a look at it.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. We're actually going out potholing on Thursday morning, and we can go ahead and we can start doing some of that down there too. As far as the curbs go and everything else, when we get into the bigger situations, we can only do temporary fixes. And then we can look into putting it on a paving list. 2025 is already set though, so
Right.
it would have to go into the 2026 paving plan.
And so, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
All right. because he brought that up. He said it's already been years since they touched that street. I mean, I'm like, how much longer do we really, like, is there any way to take a look at it as an emergency look? Because if they've been sitting for 25 plus years already with the street looking like that, why make them sit even more? Another 2 years just because it didn't make the list. Like, is there any way to take a look at it and see if something to make it feasible for them residents? Because they've been dealing with it for the last some odd years.
Yeah, so what I can do is I can reach out to our engineering firm who helps me out with that,
Yes, sir.
and I can ask them, hey, is there any way we can squeeze this in? I know previously me and you had actually talked about Shamrock also.
Sure.
I did
Yes,
reach
sir.
out about that one too, but yeah, it's one of those where I can just reach out, get an answer for them, come back and report it to you and the council and see where we can go from there.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I can
I-
put it as an emergency status or, explain to them, hey, this is something we really need to take a look at.
And I appreciate that. That just
Yeah.
gives your constituent, let them know that we care.
Yes, yeah, that's no
Mr.
problem.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
sorry, you made me think of some more things.
Okay.
So first of all, I just want to point out that the sidewalks are not the city's responsibility. So if the problem is the sidewalk, that's on the,
It's
that's
the
on the,
curve.
okay.
It's the curb.
I,
That's our
I heard you
responsibility.
mention the sidewalk, so that's why I just wanted to be clear about that.
Yes.
And then I also heard you mention that the 2025 paving list is out. Do we know that? Can we know that?
So all of Oak Knoll back in there will be paved in 2025. Everything, as far as I have spoken emails with JMA, John Godey, that is set, done, and ready to go. One thing I did forget to mention also is Galbraith Road is out to bid. We are actually in the bidding process from the information that I received once again from JMA Engineering. I am hoping to get an update at the end of the week to see where we are at with that process also. So we are getting that done hopefully this year too.
What other streets besides Oak Knoll?
It's all the Oak Knoll, Baywood, every road in that back little corner there will be paved. So one of our hotspot problem areas will be taken care of.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You read my mind.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is it possible that we can get a list of just what we have listed to be repaired?
I can. I will get it from JMA.
Okay.
I do not have a set list, but what we did is before I previously started, it was already discussed that this would be the next course of action. So as I move forward with my position here, I can definitely get a list of everything put together.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. And all right. Next going forward, new business. First main piece of new business, we need a new chairperson. Huh? Oh, my bad. Strike that part from the record. Do we have any other new business? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to adjourn the public safety meeting at 7:40 p.m. Thank y'all for y'all patience and y'all presentations. Appreciate y'all.
Meeting. We're going to start at 7:49. Now I'm trying to get back to my notes. All right, we'd like to start here. I would go through, I think, council, everyone got the agenda? You got my agenda? You received my agenda?
Yes.
I am gonna move to 3 and go down. The number 1 and 2 was already taken care of. The meeting.
Mr. Wilson, if I may, Mr. Chair, sorry. You probably want to clarify what bullet points 1 and 2 are, because the audience
Yes.
doesn't have it.
I understand. So the recreation development update from Mrs. Claire was already presented. She had gave that an update earlier. And the CDBG funding, we've already discussed that also. So we're gonna move past them 2 points. That's 1 and 2. So we're gonna start with point 3, which was the trash can proposal. And actually, we'll move past the trash can proposal too, because Mr. Davis covered that in the safety. So we'll move to number 4 is a food truck Friday.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can you help me understand how Mr. Davis already talked about the trash can? Was that what you were saying to use the CBDG money for? Is that it?
Yes, he already
Okay.
he already asked Mr. Hoffman as far as the information, as far as figuring out if his budget or if his proposed plan fit in the budget for
Okay.
that funding.
All right. Is it possible to just do a 3-second overview of, because if,
ma'am.
otherwise people have to
Okay.
watch both meetings.
Okay, that's
Mis-
cool.
All right. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Okay, so to be clear, the question was, we need updated and new trash cans. So we've prepared an effort to purchase between 35 and 60 new ones, and right now we've got conflicting estimates. Mr. Huffman's is closer to 30,000. Mine was about 14,000, and we were trying. And as of right now, the initial goal is to see if those bins can be paid for and covered as part of this CDBG funding. So that's where we currently are now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Will, I was going to ask Mr. Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as that, what are your next steps to see why there was such a variance between the two estimates? Was his trash can like the big trash can and yours was like the kitchen size, or
Now,
why was it such a big variance? Or was it the company and the quality of the material? Or
okay, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
As far as I can tell, I think it's just a matter of different suppliers, different places. Because let's see, the estimate that was in the middle was simply going on Amazon, commercial trash can, 45, add to cart, and then the lower example I want to say was from a school supply website. I hate my laptop. Its battery just died. I could have told you exactly who it was. Mr. Huffman's, one of his is from Uline. Uline is I'd say it's one of the more well-known like providers of, municipal type things. Like we purchase from Uline all the time. So that's the variance right now. Like I said, I know the cans I looked up were 38 gallon covered at ash thing on top, so rain and everything doesn't get into them. And I gotta see. Wait a minute, Mr. Huffman's is. Yeah, Mr. Huffman's was 60 cans, 33,800, and that's once again a plastic can with the cover on the top, waterproof and everything. His each can was 32 gallons. So I'll do a little more research just to see exactly why there was such a wide variance, and also to find out if there's something in city code like, okay, we must have this type or this quality or so on and so forth.
thank you.
Yes. Are y'all looking into the different designs also, as far as the cans? Like, what if we can put anything on them, like to represent the city?
Now I'd say that's one more for the future, because I know Mr. Huffman's everything he suggested was black. Now the ones I looked up, they come in different flavors, so we could get a Trojan gold, or we could get a red, or we could get like different colors for different sets of the city. But honestly, that's something to look for in the future. Right now, the next concern is being able to get this finance so we can put the rubber to the road to it. And I can send you more details and update you on that.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there any more questions for Mr. Davis? All right, so we will move on to number 4, which would be the Food Truck Fridays. So I understand that there's an interest in bringing food trucks here to North College Hill on a Friday. Does there anybody have any questions or comments about it?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we've done the Food Truck Fridays in the past.
Mhm.
The issue is the vendors do not make any money.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have, either we have, and I've actually gone out to the Cincinnati Food Truck Association website and their Facebook groups. They have guidance in terms of if you're going to bring food trucks in, here's how many customers they need to have, all these kinds of things that are really our best practices for things with food trucks. Our events, typically, either we have way too many food trucks and like 10 people show up, or we have too many of the same kind. We've had issues where people would sign up and then not show up. So we advertise and we do all this, hey, you're going to come and see so-and-so's chicken or whatever, and they're not there, because they don't show up, because we offer them for free, for these people to come and do the Food Truck Fridays. So this year we decided not to do that because there was a lot of work that goes on in the back end to recruit these trucks, get them signed up, get them in the right spot, get the word out on Facebook, and then either the trucks themselves don't show up or we don't really get any crowds or any people that come to them anyway. So we decided to focus our energy on the citywide events, to have the food trucks where we know there's going to be a customer base for them and they're not going to be losing money when they come.
So have we researched the areas that the truck we set up for Food Truck Fridays? Like, have we figured out or looked into the reason why they're not being as well advertised before we closed it down?
We've been doing this for probably 2 or 3 years, so it's been a pretty consistent issue, at least recently since I've been here. And so, yes, we did do research on that.
Okay.
So, and just to be clear, if you look in my report, under proposed legislative action, there is an existing mobile food vendor ordinance that I had proposed a number of suggested changes to that might make food truck opportunities more lucrative for other food trucks, rather than the city trying to organize an event, allow food trucks to reserve space in different areas around the city where we know there's going to be the foot traffic, because that's what they need, is the foot traffic. And the other cities have done this where they have like a reservation process and the food trucks can sign up for different spots. And it also allows the city to get a registration from them every year. They would have to submit to an inspection every year, and other cities have done this successfully. So that was all outlined in the proposed legislation that I had provided to this committee a few months ago.
Okay, so what I would ask, as chair, I'm going to ask, I will review that information, but I ask that you go back into some type of setting. And I would like you to review it. I'd like you to pull it back up and let's figure if we can't get this back in place. And let's find out a way to make it profitable for them. If we can do that, I'll really appreciate it. Let's just put a plan together and then sit down and talk about it. But like I said, I would like to move forward with bringing Food Truck Fridays back.
Right, and the main issue is foot traffic.
Okay, so
And
like I said,
if we
let's
host
just,
it on city property, like way over there before we don't get the foot traffic.
So-
We had it here and we still didn't get
so listen, like I asked, is let's just, I would like you go ahead to take the time, I need you to research it as much as possible so we can sit down and meet, and then we can move forward with trying to re-implement it, because I don't want it to disappear. I actually want it to come back. It's good for everybody because it's different varieties of food, and these people got opportunities to show it off. And guess what? I would like North College Hill to be the staple area for that. So if we can start something that's just different from everybody, then let's do that. So let's just take and research it. Let's look at it again.
Well, I will look up the research that I've already done extensively before we made the suggestion to the mayor to get rid of Food Truck Friday. We did do that, and I had a conversation, but I can dig that up again. That's not a problem.
Yes, I would like you to take that up again, Mel. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Ms. Clear, I just want to, just for clarification, the proposal that you're talking about possibly moving forward is not necessarily a Food Truck Friday, but like how you know, I know on Facebook, there are certain food trucks that I track. And so you're saying like on any given day, hey, let's just put a food truck in Kroger's parking lot. I'm just saying, you know, somewhere near where it's more.
It'd be like maybe on Galbraith Road where we have a designated vendor service area, like they do downtown.
Right.
They have vendor service areas, and that way they can sign up. Okay, we know that there's lunch traffic. So between 11 and 2, they can sign up for the time slot where they know there's going to be the foot traffic for lunch traffic. For us having it on a specific day and time where there may not be the foot traffic isn't helping them, and that's what the data showed.
So you're saying it'd be more profitable for them if they're in an area, not necessarily on a Friday, but at any given time, lunchtime or whatever, that they'll be up on Galbraith and you can get multiple, you know, like Korean food on on Wednesday, and then maybe on Thursday. Because I know at the hospital, they have rotating food trucks that come and visit us.
That's
and
the
it's not
idea,
necessarily on a Friday, and it's lunchtime, and they get that. Yeah, because I know I would always try to participate on that Food Truck Friday. I have my kids up there, and yeah, you're right. There was hardly anybody there.
Right. And then the other issue is we tried to cut down on the trucks to maybe drive some more business to them. So like we're only going to have 2 trucks. And then I would say, well, there's not enough variety, so we need 3 or 4 trucks. Well, that's just setting you up. I mean, you need to have 500 or 600 people show up for 4 trucks to make a profit. And that's just what the data showed. So we did discuss that and talk about potentially asking for vendors to be in different areas in the city, and maybe, but we would have to change our legislation. And that's why that was in review to review the legislation in committee to say, how are we gonna, if we're gonna try to go down this path of this project that other cities have done successfully and do it this way and allow some more flexibility. The other issue with the Food Truck Fridays is that since it was on city property, we had to have somebody from the city babysit it. So that's the other issue as well. So if it's set up and where they have to reserve a spot and they go out and it's foot traffic and they have more control over it, and then they can do their marketing, and to your point, hey, we're gonna be in North College Hill on this date at this time, you know, that, you know, and you're already on your lunch break, you know, then you'll go.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
go
just
ahead, Madam
wanted
Mayor.
to comment. There were several food truck trap Fridays that was successful, very much so. It was the first Friday of every month during certain months, and there was a lot of foot traffic. My opinion, when I started to see it dwindle, was when we set up the process and we started to minimize the number of trucks that could be there. Now, we did have up to 4, but there was a process set up where they had to sign up, and I can't remember if it was limited to 3, I can't recall. But one truck, at first it was where we would contact them. There was a verbal contact, can you come this particular day? And one particular truck would come, which brought in a lot of traffic. Then there was another truck that came, brought in a lot of traffic. There were some days that were hit or miss. We had to counsel if it was just 1 or 2 trucks. Do I think that process is beneficial? Yes, because you know who's coming. But if that particular truck or vendor is not telling their customer base, this is where we are, then you lose it. If we are not, and I will say, when we started that process, the advertisement stopped. There was not a lot of advertisement that went out after we started the signing up online. So the word of mouth, the signs were going out late. So if you're putting a sign up the day before, then it's just advertisement, and we have to be, you know, do a food truck frenzy would be nice. I know when we went to the BZA. I know you heard about them earlier, and they approved it and changed it where we could have the food trucks. If it's a city-sponsored event, you don't have to pay. For instance, the guy who was down here in front of I guess it's a beauty salon, I'm not sure. He can post there. I guess he has an arrangement with that particular business, and he pays his yearly, I believe it's $250 to have his park there. If it's a city event, you do not have to pay in order to bring your food truck. Now, would I like to see it back that particular way? I would, but if it, if nobody's coming, but advertisement is a lot. Just the same way if we advertise for the Juneteenth, you can still, there are some people who would say, hey, where's the Food Truck Fridays still? Because we enjoy coming, and they did walk. They lived down on, is that Marvin? They lived on Marvin, and they would walk over. Just depends on the food truck. There's a variety of ways to do it. If Food Truck Fridays is not the way to go, then I do think that we need to have something at least once a year for that type of, even if it's included with our festivals that we have or something like that. But I would like to see something more regular, even if it's every other month.
Well, it got added because I had a couple of your constituents ask me about it and ask where did it go and why did y'all stop? And so, I wanted to bring it back because if they're asking for it, then that means that they want it. And if it ain't there, how can they get it?
I know one family came, they said we plan, and this is what we plan to do, this is what we eat that particular night. So with the different ones that are there. So it just depends on, to be honest, what's going on in the city of Cincinnati or other surrounding cities, which bring out a crowd, or maybe it does or it doesn't. So
I would also like to say that we also had some trucks that would come, the same truck would come multiple times, right? There was one or two of them that would come all the time. And then I think it did spread a little bit by word of mouth. So our contact list before was maybe like 8 or 10 trucks that we would routinely reach out to. I have well over 25 trucks on my list now, so it's not physically possible to call everybody and do the physical calls and calls and calls and calls. So that I would need help with if that's going to be what we want to do.
If you don't mind, you could submit that to me also, because I don't mind reaching out. But I think it's a goal that we should bring that back. I would like to see that happen. So if we can make some, give me some type of report by our next meeting, which it will be
probably, is it August?
I'm sorry, I apologize. That will be August the 12th, if I'm correct, 2024.
Sure.
All right.
I think the 13th is a Tuesday.
To be clear, do you want the contact list that I had?
Yes, I do want the food truck contact list. Cause we could reach out and speak to them. That's if you need the assistance.
I
Mr. I was gonna call him president. I'm used to
it's
saying
cool.
Mr.
I ain't the president
Mr.
yet.
Chair.
Yes, go ahead. Mayor Nichols.
Ms. Clear, did, in your report, can you include, if you have time, I don't want to add anything extra, but I know there were some because of the foot traffic that a couple times denied. But one of the ones that always came was Foster's Foodies, unless he had something else going on, and he drew a crowd.
He did, and I think I'd have to double check to see if, he was, some of them too, if they book with us and it's Friday night and then they get a booking somewhere else, they will cancel with us.
Yeah.
But, that happened several times too. So I'm not saying that that particular food truck did it. It just happened quite a bit.
Got it. So
it happened quite a
for you
bit.
to include that because you.
I can go back through my records and say, I can give you my contact list. I can give you, I'd have to do some digging, but go back through like the Facebook advertising that we did do and which were the ones that, you know, either did or didn't show up, the ones that had signed up and canceled. Even after they had signed up, they did one and then they didn't do any more. They wouldn't come back. So that I can see if I can try to find that information as well.
Okay, and Mr. Wilson, I will tell you, for everybody's favorite social media outlet, Facebook, there is a food truck. I forget
Group.
what it's called.
The
Yeah,
food truck group. I'm watching it.
yeah, and everything.
I'm watching it.
It's everything on there.
So, well, if you could, just give me an outline by the 12th of bringing this program back is what I would like to see. Thank you. So we want to move on to item 5, which is additional cleanup days. The first one of this year was already held, and I believe we have a second one scheduled, but I wanted to try and throw an additional cleanup day in between that second one. If not, but you know, in between it, if we can probably somewhere, depending, when was the second one scheduled for?
Is it in September?
Is it in September?
It would be in September. I don't know that we have a date nailed down yet for that particular one, but normally it's in September timeframe.
Okay. Well, I would like to see an additional cleanup day added. We're just gonna have to figure out when to put it in. I know that I think the youth go back to school the 2nd or 3rd week of August.
Second week. I think it's
Second
the
week.
13th, August 13th.
August 13th. So,
Might I make a suggestion that we
Yes, ma'am.
reach out to our newly formed North College Hill Beautification and Activities Committee for things like this, because they have the connections and can get the volunteers in that we need for these types of things.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion, that we can set something on the calendar,
Okay.
but we would need to coordinate with that group.
Well, what is my chances of you getting that together? What is my chances of you coordinate, you know, speaking to that group and seeing if we can fit another cleaning day in?
What, you're asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you. Can you? Will you be able to reach out to that group and speak
Yeah.
to them?
It's Ms.
for
Bruner.
us?
Ms. Bruner is the founder and chairperson of that organization. Yes, I can reach out to her. That's not a problem.
I mean, and let's
Yeah.
just see what we can do about making that happen and getting us an extra day of cleaning in.
There's not a lot of time between
I know.
now
That's
and
why-
September to get another one in.
Exactly. That's why I want to try and
We
work
would have,
under
we,
this.
it would have been
safer to
ideal to do it in
aim
June,
after.
so that it's like
Yeah.
every couple of months.
It might be safer to shoot for after September.
So, you think it would? I mean, it get cold and folks ain't gonna want to come out.
Cold.
I know. After September, it get cold. Who gonna come out in the cold and want to pick up trash? That's what I'm thinking about.
If someone's motivated to pick up trash, they're gonna come out when they have to wear a windbreaker.
Hey, it works for me.
I don't know.
All right, so we want to move on to the next item on my agenda, which is number 6, a party in the park. So, you know, I do believe that, you know, we need to be able to, you know, bring our community together, you know, and then we need an event that's going to do so. So I would like to, you know, put together a party in the park. I mean, I want to come hang out with my neighbors. I want to hang out with my constituents. Even if you don't know me, this is an opportunity to get to know me. So I would like to put together a party in the park so that way we can hang out with North College Hill.
Okay, so there is a party that is going to be planned in Stapleton Park as soon as the renovation is completed in a few weeks. And that is mentioned in my report. The
Okay.
date is to be determined because it's going to be dependent on when the construction is finished. But it
Okay.
should be within the next few weeks.
And is that a dedication party?
Yes, it's a rededication.
Okay, so what I would like is a party that's for the North College Hill residents and the city of North College Hill.
Yes, everyone will be invited to that event.
But it's dedicated to the park. I want something dedicated to the citizens of North College Hill. So that's the direction of that type of party in a park I like to have. I wanted to focus on bringing out the community. So I know that the dedication party will bring out those for the park because we're dedicating. We're opening up this park, we're dedicating it, and that's how it works. But I want this party in the park to be about the residents. I don't want it to be talking about nothing else but the residents.
So would you like this to be centrally located, like in
Yes.
a park like Veterans Park?
Yes, something that all the residents can get to. If they can walk, they can leave their cars at home and walk around the corner to the park and enjoy one another.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Yes, Miss.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with your vision of what's the difference between a park dedication and something for the citizens. I don't see why the two can't intermingle.
So the park dedication is for just that. You're dedicating that park to the
But
community.
it will be the citizens that attend that.
So you're dedicating that park to the community, and the focus of them citizens is there to enjoy that park. If you do the party in a park is strictly to focus on the citizens. I don't want the party focused about something around in the community. I actually want it to be focused on the community, which is the citizens. So I want the theme of that party in the park to be about the citizens. Us mingling, talking,
So
and getting
what
to know
activities would be different between those two?
The difference is that when the dedication is you're asking your residents to come out and watch us, dedicate this park that we took tax dollars, fixed it up, cleaned it up. Everybody, they're there because their focus is this park. They done cleaned it up, and that's what everybody is there for because they want to look at the beautification of this park. So that's the difference. When the party in the park I'm talking about is the focus on the citizens.
I understand your focus. I'm asking about the activities. What activities would be
The
different?
activities will be considered of citizen activities. Just whether we can get some housing programs out there, or we can get booths out there where the residents can sign up for a lawn care, or they can find other individuals that's out there in the community that can give them the helping hands that they need. I mean, they might run into construction workers, plumbers, anybody. We all in North College Hill, we community. If we talk and mingle with one another, we probably find a lot of the resources that all of us are looking for amongst ourselves. Because I know I've seen in North College Hill where, I got individuals looking for it. Go ahead, Ms. Ducey.
I'm not real sure if I'm supposed to or I'm able to talk because technically I'm not on this committee and there's no comments from the audience in committee meetings.
Well, this is my committee meeting, so you can go ahead and speak.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure exactly your angle, but what I've seen is like Jazz in the Park with Forest Park, where they have, recreation on the calendar, kind of a continual event of, just social. One is more like a dedication to honor the, park itself. If I'm hearing you right, one is more just getting some social events on the calendar that are not necessarily related to the kids or what have you, just simply social events. I know Wyoming has, they do live bands, Friday night next to the Sparkies, and then there's an ice cream parlor that stays open extra late. The neighborhood kind of walks and culminates to that centralized area. There's cornhole. They don't call it Party in the Park, but it has a very similar name. I don't know if that's what you're referencing, but it has become like a central neighborhood thing. There's like some art where there's artists out there painting at during the time. Sometimes the library stays open late and kids can actually go get books and have free books if, you know, during the evening hours. It happens usually on a Friday night. So I'm not sure if that's the kind of event that you're speaking to, but I've noticed that some of our surrounding greater Cincinnati cities and communities do those things to kind of just create a central hood for their residents.
I will also point out that a lot of those are volunteer-led. Their cities are not, the city doesn't have to raise money for those. We don't have to expend public funds for that. A lot of those are volunteer-led, and they're sponsored by local organizations. I agree with you. The main event that we have coming up is Fall Festival, which we are trying to grow that event. We actually did receive a grant from the county to grow that event, to expand the outreach and vendors and the community resources that you're talking about that would be a part of that event. So that is something that we also have, we've had the local agencies there and services there for the community, but we are going to be expanding that event this year. So we've been trying to drive traffic to that event as well for this similar purpose, and it's right in the middle of town.
So Ms. Dukestein did give a perfect example of what it is that I'm trying to talk about, that I'm talking about. And that's the type of program, you know, party that I would like to bring, something that focuses on North College Hill and that brings our community together, that's getting us out here talking to one another instead of just being incognito to each other. We don't even know half the people in our own community because we don't talk to one another. And that's got to change. So yes, what Ms. Dukestein is talking about is the ideal of what I mean by a party in the park.
Okay.
Thank you. So let's move on. Number 7 on my agenda was 2025. I would like to do a fireworks show for North College Hill. So I know it's going to be preparations, and it's going to be a lot into it, and I would like to start that. I want to look into making sure that we find the different options to bring that, but I definitely want to bring that type of show to North College Hill, because like I said, the biggest part about this is that we're bringing our community together and coming out and they sitting and they enjoying one another, and that's where we're going to be able to have a great and prosperous future if we start talking to one another again. We have to. So this is another project that I would like to work for North College Hill to bring, so that way those who don't want to run all the way downtown or run all the way out to Kings Island, you know, or go somewhere they probably don't want to go to their family's house for 4th of July. They can actually sit at home and watch a fireworks show safely from the comfort of their own home. So, any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, okay, so now, in addition to, or not necessarily competition, because I've looked up, there's a such thing as a drone show. So basically, you know, the same togetherness, the same building the community. We're all out looking, but instead of necessarily fireworks, which are allowed and which makes our dogs want to fight people, they have coordinated drone shows where they have basically it's the same type of lights, same type of music and everything, but we're all looking at these drone formations and things like that. What I'll do, I'll send you an example of that. And we can start to work on a proposal of what we'd have to do in order to do a drone show. I can send you and get that started.
Ms. Zort.
I'm just wondering what you're considering for a budget for something like that, because fireworks are pricey. And I'm going to follow it up with a suggestion. It's one of my cockamamie ideas. So I sit in my couch and I can hear fireworks from every direction, multiple nights. It's probably been every night since the Saturday before the 4th of July they started, everywhere. So what if we ask these people to donate their money to the city to pay for one great big fireworks show? And then there is a way to control the night, to control where they are going off. There's a lot more structure around the fireworks show than everybody having them in their own backyard. I don't know how you make that happen, but that's my idea.
Well, hopefully with this goal, you know, that people will consider not having to spend a lot of money on fireworks, you know, if we're able to put a feasible show together from North College Hill. You're probably going to get a lot of no's because no one's going to want to donate their money to something else. So that's going to happen. But if we structure this right and we do it right, I'm pretty sure that we probably can get a lot of folks to cut down, because I do know people that only really buy fireworks because there's no fireworks show. So,
Well, I'll take objection to that because I know Coleraine puts one on right next door and Mount Healthy puts one on.
well,
right next door.
that's even a even bigger problem, because our neighbors are putting on a show and they're having our constituents leave North College Hill to go to our neighboring communities to watch a show that we should be able to put on here, and let's try and get their constituents to come to our community, because guess what? Them surrounding dollars, we can use them too. I mean, they take our dollars all day long. So let's put together something that's going to bring it back to North College Hill. That's what I'm focused on. Bringing North College Hill up to the level that we should be at in 2024. We should be recognized. I know this because I've been in Cincinnati for 47 years, and all North College Hill is recognized for is being a living community. It doesn't have any entertainment here. And that has to change. So any other remarks for that? All right, we want to move on to any new business. We got any new business? We'll move on to any old business. Do we have any old business?
If I may, I don't know if this falls under old business, but there were several items that were on the radar screen for this committee, just in terms of community development. I don't know if the comprehensive plan belongs here. I mean, I don't know which. It seems like since it is community development, city community development, that it would belong here. Like, I know that council hasn't adopted it, but I'm concerned that it's dropping off the radar screen altogether. So there's other things like the business development, the Chamber of Commerce, other aspects of city community development besides just the recreational pieces that I'm not sure. I believe that was in this committee too. There were other things that were part of this committee besides just the recreational pieces, and I don't know if those are still on in a parking lot, agenda, or that, I don't know where all that landed.
Mr. Chair, as far as the comprehensive plan is concerned, I do know Ms. Zorb was trying to get a copy as well as myself. I was sent a copy today, but it did not include the revisions from the Planning Commission. I checked my email before I came back up here, and it's still the copy that I don't have. My plan, that would depend on council, actually, and I probably should ask this in the August meeting, but I'll say it now so it can be on the radar. If they would like it to come to council floor, which was going to be in my attention, is to provide the original copy and the revised copy so the council can make the decision of which one they prefer. It will be up to council and Mr. Graver to put it in whichever committee he so chooses after it's gone, because it's gone through the other committees. Planning Commission, they've made their decision or choices so that we can get it passed or not. So whatever the pleasure of council is, but I was just going to ask that it be put on the agenda. First read, you guys can put it wherever you so choose, if you so choose to, between the two.
May I just suggest that you send it to Mr. Graver and he directs it to whichever committee he wants to send it to?
If that's what the majority would prefer, then I
I
don't
think
have a
that's,
problem
I
doing
mean,
that.
that's the process that's in,
Your council rules.
yes.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
So you're saying that you all have a copy of the revised?
The
No, I think she
planning
got the
commission, I believe, they may have sent it to our former city administrator,
Okay.
but I did ask one of their members today, because after I went back through my email, it was never forwarded to me. I did not have it, the revised copy. And I believe that that was sent out maybe in April or May.
So when you get it, you're going to
I'm going
send
to
it,
send the original, which was from the urban planning,
right?
and then I'm going to send the revised copy. I'm calling it revised because it won't be revised until you revise it.
Right.
Their suggested
right,
copy,
right.
their suggested copy to Mr. Graber, and he can send it to whatever committee he so chooses, if it's, whether it's Rules and Public Policy, this committee, or what have you.
I think it's going to have many pieces
So do
to
I.
it. So, I mean,
Might be a
it's going to have
committee,
that financial piece to it.
might be a
It's gonna
committee of the
have-
whole. I don't
Right,
know.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
about to
that's what I was
say,
gonna say,
yeah, it
it's gonna-
sounds like it's gonna be in the hole.
So you guys talk about it across the, however, that's your
Yeah.
decision. I just,
Yeah, and I apologize if I was bringing up something inappropriate, that was not timely for this, but I do remember that being a bullet point in this committee before where that was kind of on the
Right.
radar. So I
it
just
had
wanted to make
stayed in their
sure.
committee for some time, the planning commission committee for some time, so. I do apologize that it's not before you. That piece just was not sent out, so I'm trying to get that. It's not revised. That's what they're
Modified.
calling it. Marked up copy, is that what you said?
I said modified.
Modified, okay. Modified. Per the planning commission.
All right, is there anything else in old business? All right, this meeting is adjourned at 8:33 p.m.
We may have to do some moving around of the agenda slightly just to kind of compensate for missed time. And Ms. Clear, so she did report to me, and we're starting officially at 8:33. So Ms. Clear did report to me that there weren't any financial changes for the splash pad update. The $55,000 that was originally designated to go to the splash pad will be reallocated in another area of whatever we decide. And so she didn't have any further updates. And so I'm going to just leave it there and allow her to come back to us in August because of time. We really need to do some more research of where the resources are going to come from for the splash pad anyways. So, Ms. Clear, thank you for staying and giving us an update. So then the next one is William Dunson Memorial. I spoke to Mr. Rucker, and he would like for us to consider doing a bench and doing a plaque on the bench and a like curb paver. He said both the family, I spoke to Mrs. Dunson and Mr. Rucker, and they are very grateful to North College Hill. They were so happy that we were willing to do something for the Dunson Memorial and asked that we would consider doing a small something right there at the site and the park. So I'm bringing it back to committee to ask if we feel like that's too much. Mr. Huffman did a rough estimate. So the park bench and plaque are going to be around $2,000. And we did not get a cost on what it would take to do a little paver in the concrete at the site. So can you guys kind of hone in on what you think is appropriate so I can go back to the family? This has been sitting on the agenda a really long time, and it wasn't our fault that it didn't move, but now that it is in our hands, I would definitely like to move this along as quickly as possible. And again, for those that did not know or weren't here prior or previous meetings, Springfield Township will not help, not because they don't want to, they're just not legally able to talk to us about anything regarding this in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So we're bearing the financial load of this memorial on our own. The Dunson family have been residents for over 20 years. So I just want to throw that in there to say that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Let's see. I know at first we weren't talking about a bench because of location. I don't mind a bench, but the location is key. It can like obstruct traffic, and I think that's why we were talking about the paver.
They want both. They would like to have a bench in the park designated
park?
away
Okay.
from the actual site,
Okay.
and then something like a plaque or something small at the site. And they were trying to see if we have any opposition against both.
Okay, so a bench at the park and a paver at the site.
And I said to him, I said, you know, we are bearing the financial responsibility on our own, and this is something that we're willing to do. We did not agree to both, but I did agree to ask if you all had an issue with both. And we could probably do very modestly, whichever way we went, we would do the kind of bare minimum on both to keep our costs down.
Madam Chair?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I was gonna ask. I mean, doing both, is it a different cost? I mean,
It would definitely be a different cost. So we're looking at roughly $2,000 for the bench and plaque. And then we don't have a cost on what it would cost for us to do the paver. Public Works would probably do that. Even though that's seemingly a more modest thing to do, it is probably going to be the more costly thing because we have to actually take up a piece of concrete and replace it with our Public Works plus materials. We've got to block off that area. There was a little bit of conversation about her wanting to, just their family wanting to commemorate. Nothing's ideal, to be honest, because one is at the site and one is not.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I certainly do not oppose doing both. My question is, what, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds. Have we considered what are we just putting a name?
Yeah, just a name and like date of life and death, just something to commemorate what happened.
Okay.
On the actual site. And on the bench, it would be more memorializing. And then just a nice bench by a tree in a park designated by whichever one we suggest. And then a plaque on there where his family could come and sit and just recognize his life. So if you guys are not okay, I can come back with you via email, the cost, and then we can go forward. Okay, so thank you guys for that. Okay, so legislation for minors. I'm keeping this on there just to keep me on track. So we're in the process of contacting Rita because Mr. Dieter said that our legislation needs to model Ohio's, and Rita would have that. So Ms. Anderson has agreed to call Rita to get that
tax code.
the outline of those tax laws so that ours can model that. We'll response. I'm sorry.
The call is out. We're just waiting on the response.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I just want to. Don't be looking at my stuff, okay?
I thought you was about to open it all, like, oh, we're here forever.
I just want to just show you guys this because I wanted to kind of go here the last time, but we were not able to because I didn't have the ability to give you the full screen. Sorry, hold on. I'm not seeing your view. Okay, so this is the full document. We will not go into it, but if you want to, this is where you can actually find the details of the years ending December 31st, 2022 to 21 for the audit. This report is pages long, and it gives in grave detail what the findings were. I will be more than happy. This is public information. If you want to leave your email with me, I will be more than happy to send this on. I want to show you this one cover sheet, and we'll move on from this specific item quickly. I took a screenshot of the, this is ohioauditors.com audit search detail. So you can see that it is the official site, and then it says financial audit, and then it gives the release date, November 21st, 2023. And then it says findings for recovery, no. And then Regional Council of Government, no. This just means that we were auditable. And I just want to reiterate that because we had a lot of information out there leading us to believe that we were in a different position financially. And it's right to clean it up. I have started to figure out some of the other sites out there. They may not have been authentically the auditor sites. People post things randomly. So if you have any of the sites that you've gone to and they report something differently, send those to me so we can kind of try to recover where the misinformation was. I have spoken to Bill Dieters about it. I'm not real sure what our responsibility is legally, but I want the citizens of North College Hill to know that we were very much auditable and we are in good finding in terms of this. So if there aren't any other questions, I'll move on from this quickly. Sure.
I do too.
Madam Mayor, you may have to address this one. But
Please speak in a mic.
as of this day, July 8th, is still there, not on a legitimate website, but on the county auditor's website. We have a law director who is intended purpose at $54,000 a year, a salary to protect the city. This should not be done by a council member to dig that deep, and thank you. But this should have been done through our law director to communicate with the state's law director to mitigate this and then redact it. So how do we get Mr. Dieters to actually execute the redaction of any findings, not on any third-party websites, but specifically on the county auditor's website? That's just a simple conversation with their legal, he's legal, you communicate, and if they desire not to, then there are other, you can confirm, but there are other measures that can be executed to get this redacted. I don't know.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Ms. Carrington, to your point, I'm not sure that Mr. Dieters did. I do know that Mr. Mosby did try to get that redacted, and he had multiple conversations with them. If he did reach out to Mr. Dieters to do it, I was not made aware. But I can most certainly have a conversation with Mr. Dieters to see if this is something at this particular point that we can still pursue.
I did have a conversation with Mr. Dieters following your last one. We talked about it before. And I think he's trying to figure out what are the right next steps in terms of them removing the inconsistencies with this information. Let me just say it's a work in progress. To be honest, they probably should have removed it when they realized it was a mistake. So that's what I'll say. But it is a work in progress, and as long as I can be on this, I will. That's all.
I would also go take it a step further. There could be other, and I'm not yelling, I'm just extremely.
No, you're fine.
There could be other things out there posted inaccurately on behalf of the city of North College Hill. So I would think that we would even take it a step further and begin to ensure that if we have measures in place to protect us from really you can't stop someone from WCPO, Channel 5, whomever, but when there's actually something posted on a state auditor's website or any other website that represents the state of Ohio and it says something is inaccurate regarding the city, then that needs to be redacted. And to be honest, I'm not a lawyer, but we have one in the room. And I'm not putting you on the spot, but I do know it's not extremely complicated. To remove an article that's listed on the website, it's not difficult at all. It's a matter of it's a matter of getting in contact with the appropriate parties, spending the time communicating with them, and then asking for an appropriate execution by a certain date. And if they don't, he knows the next steps. He's a very well-known lawyer and attorney. He knows next steps.
I would agree. Ms. Zorb?
Need to finish this thought, sorry. So I'm not, I haven't looked at the auditor's website, but there was a time, a space and time, when this city was inauditable.
But
Please let me finish. We have emails from the auditor stating that we were inauditable. All of council all the people that were on council at the time, got that email from the auditor saying that they needed help. They were having trouble getting records. They were having trouble reaching out to the city administrator at the time, who happened to be Mr. Mosby. And they weren't getting the answers that they needed. And they reached out to council to get the answers they needed in order to get us back into an auditable state. We were inauditable for a certain period of time. We were.
Madam Chair.
And to your point, Ms. Zorb, that was in 2019. Mr. Mose, and I don't know if you're specifically pointing at one person or not, but it prompts me to want to deal with facts over faux. Those findings were from pre-Mr. Mosby. And it's not about defending Mr. Mosby, but we have dealt with that and have had an audit of good standing. Why are we going back to something that is no longer existent just to prove that at one point we were coming out of financial disarray, but today we're in a very good space and have been for a number of years. The dates on that were 21 and 22. We're in 2024. We are so many years removed from that, and we need this city to be looked at for what is going on in the financial climate right now so that we can do some of these bigger projects. Dwelling on something from 2018 and 19, which we are so far past, is not going to help us progress in some of the major projects that we're trying to get accomplished when we're talking to banks and we are in good financial health.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I am not trying to bring up dirt. I am simply trying to validate the part that we were inauditable at some point in time. I would also like to point out that when we do get audited, it's always in arrears. So it's always for, 2 years? 2 years ago or something like that? So it's always past history.
Absolutely.
It's going to be that way. It's the nature of the beast.
But the person that we're typically holding to the stake on that is Mr. Mosby, which he wouldn't have even been here in the 2019 year. To what you said was Mr. Mosby would not comply, so they reached out to council. And so he would not have been the person. He would be the person to respond to those, but he would not have been the person who caused the disarray for that particular audit.
I don't believe I said he was.
Okay. And if there are any more questions, I just wanted to make sure that I am reiterating that, because I want us to be looked at as healthy, because we are very much on track being a much more healthy, financially healthy and productive city. I know with all the media attention and some of the things that have been said, at least we should know. So I felt like that was necessary to clear that up. All right, so going forward, the monthly finance update. So Ms. Anderson and I have just worked very hard to kind of bring a report forward. I don't have anything on paper to share, but I can tell you where we are with our Hinkle. Actually, I'll let Ms. Anderson speak to that. There are two deadlines. Now, I want you to guys, the information is transparent. We always ask for transparency. I will tell you it's not the most favorable information, but it doesn't mean that our health financial status is in jeopardy. It just means that we need to delay some things, and she's going to give us the reasons why and where we are and give us some projective dates as to when we'll get those things in. And I want you guys to hear it from her because she explains it much better than I.
Thank you. 2023 Hinkle, the holdup is that we have to do bank reconciliations. Bank reconciliations, I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, from January through July is what we're catching up. So I'm working with Robin. I have a signed engagement letter. She's going to take a month, I'm going to take a month, and we're going to speedily get through these bank reconciliations from January through to December. At that time, we'll be able to compile the Hinkle report, and we'll still be on track for this year's audit, which isn't due until the end of December. So we're actively in the process. My role in it is just to make sure that the information that's on the bank statements match what's in our finance software. So I'm fine-tooth combing everything that's been entered from January 2023 through December of 2023 to make sure that we're giving accurate numbers. I'm big on giving numbers that are accurate. At the same time, we're going through and we're making sure that I'm doing the same thing for 2024. We're actually closer to giving a Hinkle report for 2024 than we are for 2023. But we are going to get it. We're actively working to get that done as soon as possible. I would like to think that we'll have it done by the next finance meeting. That is my goal. Very, very, very close to getting you accurate numbers.
And then with that, the tax budget, 2025 tax budget, because our Hinkle reporting and our tax budget go hand in hand, you can't give the tax projections until you finished Hinkle. So
everything does hinge upon one upon the other.
When she is done with the Hinkle within couple weeks, maybe.
We'll go right into the tax budget. We have to have, I believe it's 2 hearings. And again, those numbers are determined by the Hinkle report. So,
and that does mean that we will have to file an extension. Exactly. She's already working on that. And so what I'd like to point out is, she started in March, right?
The end of March.
The end of March, the beginning of April. So some of our delay is the transition. And then I looked over when we went through the finance and we met up this month for June, and I looked at current year, we're more on track to do what we're supposed to do. And I guess I'm giving you this part of the report to say this will be the last year for this. This is the absolute last year for this.
Yes.
We are going to turn that Hinkle in on time, and we will turn the tax budget on time, because we're more on track for the 2024 turn in of things than we are 2023, but that's just the transition. So if you will bear with us, if her starting the end of March, beginning, really digging in the beginning of April, and we're now at the beginning of July, and she plans to have it done by the beginning of August. I think that is a lot of hard work. And she definitely needs to be commended for that. It's no one's fault. It just is what it is, and we're working through the problems, and we're going to be on track for next year. And I think that's the most important thing that we can focus on, is clearing up where our issues have been in the past. Miss Anderson better not leave. That's all I have to say.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
If I could, just to touch on that, just to give a little back end. when Ms. Anderson did come in and she saw what was before her, she decided not to tackle it where it was, but to go back to the beginning of it, which I thought was very important, and I thought I commend her for that, because she looked, well, how did they get here? Why did they get there? Well, I need to go back to the beginning. So she went back to the very beginning of whatever issue or task there was, and then worked through that to get to where she is. So I just wanted to add that and commend her for that.
I do have one quick question for you, Ms. Anderson. So in the event, and I would not want to be in your shoes, but in the event during your bank recons you find discrepancies, so I presume I heard Ms. 16 say that you're going to start with or continue with the bank recons for 2023.
Correct.
And if you find a discrepancy, will that further delay our ability to file the HECO?
That is the delay. There have
There
been
are discrepancies.
very few, very few. But like I said, that I fine tooth comb and go through and make sure that everything on the bank matches exactly to what's in the system.
So of those 12 months, how many still need to be reconned?
You mean 2023?
Mm-hmm.
When I got here, January and February had
I
been.
don't want you to have to focus on that. Like as of today, and not to put you on the spot, but how many more months need to be reconned for 2023?
From March through July.
Okay, so January, February, August through December are all good to go.
Correct.
Okay, and then are we penalized when we file late?
We haven't been, and I'll tell you, there has been a history of filing late, but I've spoken with the auditor's office. We have never been penalized. We've always filed an extension on time. I'm in communication with the person that's designated for our account constantly.
Good.
So they know what our situation is.
And I think that they understand. They know that this isn't the first city by far that has had these issues. Ms. Anderson can tell you she's worked in a myriad of different cities, and she said we're not bad. There are cities in way worse condition than we have been. And when you start calling and hearing the conversation, you will see, I mean, no, we do not want to compare ourselves to the worst, but we're definitely not there. So I just want to say that. And then if there aren't any other questions about our financial monthly report or update, then we can move on. I mean, our biggest hurdles are HECO and tax budget. All right. So then this is our MOU from our full-time firefighters. Now, before we get started and digging into this, I'm going to give Kyle the floor here, and I can navigate the clicking if you want. So you got two pieces of documentation. One is part-time, one is full-time. It's going to ultimately be two different pieces of legislation, but when we review full-time, we have to review part-time. So I sent them together so that you all have the opportunity, as we have the conversations about full-time, to then go right next into part-time. So with that, I'll let you come up and have the firing squad of questions. Did you all have an opportunity to read through it? I did send it out Friday. Actually, I sent this out sooner. I sent this out the night that I said I would. But I sent it out again on Friday. I think that was probably, the 19th or something. I sent it out earlier, and then I sent it out again so you would have an opportunity to see it in a whole with all the other documents. So. This page good, or what?
Yeah, that's fine. I can just kind of go over, we've already kind of gone over a little bit.
Yeah, we've gone over it before.
So, I'm Kyle Suttles.
Can you make that bigger? Because my old eyes can't see that from here.
And she got glasses.
Yeah. Not binoculars, though.
I'm Kyle Suttles. I'm the union president for the full-time union, so I represent the full-time bargaining members. We also have a part-time union that's ASME, so it's kind of two separate, but we all work together. So there's part-time, full-time working together. So we discussed this before at previous finance committee meetings, how our salaries aren't comparable to the surrounding departments around us, and we're having issues with hiring members that are, you know, good candidates that are qualified and actually retaining those members. So we decided to come up with the MOU and present that so we could have comparable wages so we're able to hire. Right now, we are currently short 2 full-time members. It was 3, but as of right now, it's only 2. We had a internal hiring process that we've pretty much at this point exhausted that list. So now we have to hire from outside of the members here. So like an internal hiring process is like from the part-time members, kind of onboard them to be full-time. So now we have to hire from the outside. So we were at this point just trying to establish comparable wages. So that's where the MOU comes in place, to allow us to be able to offer similar wages, to be able to attract members that will, you know, have, you know, experience and will be able to provide a really good service to the citizens of North College Hill.
I think he's already explained this to us once. We presented it. You guys were wanting the document attached to the actual legislation, and you asked me to send it out. So I put it back on the agenda for that purpose. If there are any further questions, I mean, it's on council floor.
I have a question. So, Mr. Suttle, so you said we're short 2 full-time members, and now you have to hire from the outside.
Correct.
And you said that your salaries are not comparable with the surroundings, and that's why you're not retaining members. So how many members have we lost?
Right now we're short 2. I don't know off the top of my head how many members we have lost in the past. There's kind of been this transition, us go from a part-time to a full-time department. I can tell you the last hiring process that we did do, we did not have a good turnout with the candidates that we did on board. I believe we have 1 out of the 3 that are still here today, and the others have, you know, gone elsewhere at this point. And we didn't have a lot of people really apply, and they didn't have a lot of qualifications. So we knew that it was an issue after that process. And so we're not at the point where we've kind of exhausted that list, and we know that we have to do a civil service, you know, process to be able to try to hire people. So before we do that process, we want to make sure that we have comparable wages, so we do have good candidates that apply.
But to that point, you haven't posted, I mean, and per our last meeting, you said that this has been an issue for over 1.5 years. So it was before all of the hubbub started with everyone walking out, and before all the resignations. That's what you stated at the last meeting.
I didn't say 1.5 years, but it has been quite a bit of time. We did have a civil service list that was that we still had that was current, and that has been exhausted. Also, I believe our lists are good for 2 years, and now we have to hire from the outside. And so this is the time that the civil service list for the hiring for the outside is now up to where we can actually do that now. So that's
I understand that. But my point is, you haven't tried to hire from the outside. So we don't know that the current rates, no one's going to apply at the current rates. Is that true?
We have done a process from the outside previously. The last one, I believe is the last one that we did, was actually an outside process. And the candidates that we did get were not the best qualified candidates, and we didn't have a lot of people apply.
I'm confused at the statement, not the best candidates. So they didn't fit what criteria?
Some of them weren't a good fit for what we needed, correct.
Okay. So I guess, because the other point of this is the current contract that the city negotiated in good faith, and I can only presume the union negotiated in good faith, that contract is not up until December of 2025.
Correct.
You're coming to us and asking us for another raise mid-contract. And if I'm not mistaken, I had sent an email to Ms. Anderson, and I don't know that I got an answer. You guys did get a raise in January, right?
Correct.
And you're planning to get another raise in January 2025, right?
Correct, to have comparable wages.
Right.
I've also presented, I believe.
No, hang on. just per the contract that we have right now, with no changes, you got a raise in 2024, and you're scheduled to get a raise in 2025
Correct.
with the existing contract.
Correct.
But you want a 5% raise mid-contract.
So right now, the whole purpose of this is that we don't have comparable wages.
I'm just trying to get to the facts. That's where I am. So are all those facts that I stated accurate?
Correct.
So did the union negotiate this contract that doesn't expire until December of 2025? Did the union negotiate that in good faith? Or was that the plan all along because you guys did your resignation thing? And so now you have more leverage against the city to say, if the city doesn't pass this, we're going to walk out again.
No,
Is that going to happen again?
That has nothing to do with it. We're just looking to make sure that we can hire good candidates, and we're roughly about $10,000 in salary behind all the neighboring departments that are surrounding us. So we're not
To be true, to be honest though, we don't know that no one's going to apply for this because we haven't put the feelers out. We haven't.
The last process
haven't
that we
opened it
did,
up.
we did not have a lot of candidates that were actually applying here.
You just said you had 3.
We hired 3 off the last list. We hired 3 off the last list, I believe.
But we don't know because you haven't posted it.
Well,
right?
that
This
previous
is
process, there was
speculation.
not a lot of candidates that were applying.
And when was
begin
that?
with.
How long ago was that?
I want to say probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
So we don't know what's out there a year and a half later.
Madam
Right.
President, I do want to point out that we had negotiated with Mr. Suttles that if when it comes to 2025 and it's just not feasible for that 5%, they were willing to forego the raises. It does have to make sense, that if they did get a raise in 24 and then we get to 25 and we see that it's not doable, that's either considerably decreased or even could go away.
So I did not see that in the MOU. Is that written in the MOU or is that?
It's something that we discussed during
We discussed
But if
that.
it's not in writing,
We discussed that when this is MOU is up, which is going to be the same time as our current contract. Going forward, we're going to be renegotiating again, anyways, at that point.
So
we can discuss it then
That's
at.
what I'm referring to is the renegotiation, not the MOU.
Madam Chair.
But that still doesn't get us past 2025. So I know you had spoken about the ARPA funds, that we would use the ARPA funds to cover this,
They're
right?
ARPA funds.
Right.
Correct.
I understand.
Mhm.
They're ARPA funds. But I lost my thought. Jeez, oh Pete's.
Were you gonna say that the ARPA funds aren't gonna roll over?
Yes. Yes. Like, how do we know? Is this sustainable? Right? And it's kind of going to your point. If it's not sustainable, then we'll renegotiate the contract. But then we're back to the same point where they want to renegotiate in the middle. I mean, Public Works, I think they're gone. Public Works, they're working right now without a contract because their contract expired. And now we're expected to renegotiate the fire contract mid-cycle. I mean,
And I would say.
Madam Chair.
I would say that's in poor taste on the part of us, if they're, when that's phase of time where their contract was expired, that's not.
You gotta come to the mic.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's on the poor taste on the part of us. We don't want to highlight that as a beacon of expectation for any department in the city to work with an expired contract.
That's not my point at all.
But the
My-
point
my-
is you brought it up, so I get to respond to it. And I think that in reality, we need to look at rates around us to make sure that we're competitive. There were a couple of main points that he made last time, and that is, even if we got applicants that met bare minimum, in order to create a full cycle, well-rounded fire department, we need experience on both ends. We don't need a bunch of newbies on our fire department, we need people who have had diverse experiences that are willing to come from other places as well in order to carry some of the weight of those newbies. We have the lives of the citizens in our hands, and we want to give them the best advantage to hiring a well-rounded fire department that can service the city of North College Hill's needs.
So, Madam Chair, when the resignation letter went out and all the crap hit the fan with all the news, I'm pretty sure the resignation letter stated that there was over 120 some years of experience. So are we saying that those 3 people that we lost, that was a significant cut in those 120 some years of expertise?
No.
I'm missing something.
Out of the people on the resignation list, I believe everybody is currently still working here except for one of those members.
But that's my point. So all of that expertise should still be
Yes,
here
but
and
you
should
wanna- you
still
wanna
be on the
retain-
schedule.
You want to retain those members as well.
I understand that.
So that's one of the biggest things, that we got to retain the people that we have and that experience. So having comparable wages also helps retain people as well as hire.
So again, are you saying that those people are leaving? Are they walking out
I'm
again?
I'm not saying that. I'm
Madam-
just
Ma-
saying we got to look at it as a whole.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, once again, it just sounds like, a whole bunch of jibber jabber. And I'm really trying to make clear sense of this. So you were saying that you guys had already negotiated a contract from this year, correct?
We're in a 3.5-year contract currently right now.
So when does it run out?
The end of 2025.
So why are y'all coming to us and asking us for an increase now before it runs out?
Because we realize that there's an issue right now that we're not going to be able to hire and get good quality candidates, and we're at the point where we need to hire more members for not only our safety but the safety of the community, because we're short-staffed.
Okay, so it was an opportunity that the fire department did have to present this issue. Why wasn't it brought then? Why wasn't it told to us then that was a part of the issues you guys were having?
Specifically when?
Specifically last year at the Budget and Finance Review meetings, that they had every department had an opportunity to tell council what it was that they were up in and they were down in. So I was just saying, at that point in time, you know what I'm saying? Because this has already been a consistent problem, right? So I'm just saying, why wasn't it brought up then too?
You weren't here during that time, and there were a bunch of items on the list of the fire department, and their ability to deliver what they wanted was not given. Their sheet was cut.
Okay.
Across, and I don't want to just earmark the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bunch of them. After the meeting, I got a bunch in Budget and Finance, I got a bunch of feedback from the department heads as they were only able to deliver a one-pager.
Okay.
Yes.
Talking loud again. I just want to ask 2 questions before
I'm going to ask you to talk to a microphone, please. Sorry.
I'm just going to ask a question before I make my statement. I don't have a copy of the MOU, so I don't know. What is the total dollar amount that we're looking at that is impacted by the MOU?
I have no numbers with me today.
That's okay.
I can't give you a specific dollar amount.
Over
but
50,000, over 150,000, 200,000? Do we know an estimated cost?
I can't give you an actual dollar amount, but I can tell you their ARPA funds cover every dime of it, every single penny, and we still have money left over.
Got it. And the additional funding for this increase of 5%, how will that be funded?
That is funded through the ARPA funds.
Got it.
And so those funds, just to reiterate, those are only from 2023. The negotiation is about 2023 and 2024.
Understood.
We
And-
haven't yet even applied for the ARPA funds for 2024, which we will get.
Got it. So I'm not familiar with ARPA funds. Are these state-funded grants, loans? Do you have to pay it back? What is it?
it's free money that
Free
we
money.
get as a result of compensation issues. I don't know
Okay.
exactly all of the
Got it.
parameters of ARPA. You want to go into that?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. So just to understand, this is free money that we have available.
Does
at our-
not have to be repaid.
Okay, free money, grant, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so let me get to my point. 2020, what year is this? 2024, it happened this year. My husband's grandmother, who lives on Hollywood, bless her heart, 3 or 4 times, and it wasn't North College Hill. Actually, I have 2 stories very, very quickly. She was in her home, she fell ill, and she needed paramedics. She needed paramedics. I'm not a paramedic. My husband's not a paramedic. We live right around the corner, but we couldn't aid in her, giving her the help that she needed. Thankfully, they were there in a matter of seconds, got her to the hospital, and then eventually she passed away. But she got the care that she needed. Now, here's the gist of the story. This is part A, 1A of the story. 3 days later, her husband of 47 years fell ill, lied on the floor of their home due to a stroke. Really, it was heartbreak, but it was a stroke. Thankfully, they got him the attention that he needed, got him over to Good Sam, and gave him the care that he needed. I'm right around the corner. I'm not a doctor, nurse, not in medical at all, but it was because, and this is to everyone, paramedics knew what to do, how to respond, and it was an emergency. It was literally a life and death situation. He was laying in his own poop for a minute, and we didn't know. And thankfully, we stopped by the house, and paramedics were there. 3 months, not even 3 months ago, my sister-in-law was rear-ended. Hamilton and Galbraith, guess who responded? Not me. I didn't go. I couldn't help her get to the hospital. It was North College Hill. And they gave her all the care that she needed. And thankfully, her baby, who was only 3 months, was not in the back seat. But we have to think about that. This is free money. North College Hill would not lose a red cent by funding this. May not agree. Okay, I get it. Why are you coming to me for more money? It is what it is. But at the end of the day, if we really want to have good quality firefighters, paramedics, EMTs here responding, because you never know, it could be your house, it could be your grandmother, it could be your daughter, it could be anybody in an emergency situation. You want to have the very best of the best responding to your home. So just consider that. I'm not really saying yes and I'm not saying no, but I think that we need to pay attention to what is needed in order to make sure that in the event we need it, we have it at our availability. That's all.
Madam Chair, if I could, I would just like to make a comment that this is not unusual and this does happen. Sometimes it does have to be revisited, and I think in order for us to maintain our fire department and the staff, the qualified staff, which has been some of the issues that we've had, maintaining and retaining paramedics, as was discussed and negotiated, if it doesn't work, then or if it does, they don't take the raise. So you're giving it before they get it. So, and has been said, it's not coming out of any city funds. It's being used by ARPA money. I know that levy pays for something and the general fund pays for the other. That's not the case in this situation. So I guess I hear Mr. Wilson and Ms. Zorb, is the issue the fact that they're trying to renegotiate in the middle of the contract, which this happens. This is why they came with the MOU.
And I want to just piggyback on that. So whether you agree or you disagree, we have to, it has to be considered because it's here before us. And if you're looking at what's overarching for the benefit of our city, we would want to do something like this at a time where the resources are there, as opposed to trying to negotiate further down the line when the resources are not there and it's gonna hurt us. This is not going to hurt us. And if we're not in a financial position in 2025 when the contract does renew and the ARPA funds are no longer there, they're not gonna take the raise. I think that this is a prime opportunity to look at this now square in the face and see how this nets out. Sometimes it's about timing.
Madam Chair, I do also want to point out that the current staff that we have are are completely overworked. There's overtime that's being paid through payroll that is tremendous. And so it would probably, there's some savings that will come along with this, where you're not taxing the individuals that are working and you're bringing in good quality firefighters. So I think it's a win-win.
And additionally,
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if I could.
Yes, I'll go Ms. Orban, Mayor Nichols.
So I'd just like to point out that there is no guarantee that we'll be able to hire people, no matter what the salary is. So that doesn't necessarily offset the overtime, but what that would do is that means we would pay even more money out to overtime if we don't hire any, right?
I firmly believe that if we have comparable wages, we can definitely attract people to the city of North College Hill. We also offer a lot more. There's a lot of experience that people gather from here. Some people have came here because they want to, get the runs that we get here. We're very busy, even though we're like a very small area, but we're very densely populated. So I believe if we did have comparable wages and, we really, sat down and we made sure that we had something really good prepared to, give out to the candidates around us, I feel like we could attract people. And I don't think we'll have an issue hiring if we do have comparable wages.
Mayor Nichols.
That was going to be to my point, the comparable wages. People leave jobs for many reasons. They retire. They, in some cases, get terminated. Or they stay. And we want to maintain, but we don't want our people to leave. And I've heard it multiple times in multiple meetings that we do not pay our employees in comparison with other districts or departments or surrounding communities. If that's one of the number one complaints that you might hear from some of our employees. If we want to be compatible and we want to keep our employees and retain them, we need to start considering these things. And I think maybe an MOU has not been presented in this manner before, but I think it's something that we need to consider, and we need to consider to paying our employees, in this case, our fire department, a comparable wage in order to maintain them, because cost of living is not going down, it's going up. And if we're still paying them at a minimum wage rate, then of course I don't care who you are, as long as you've been somewhere for a long amount of time. If you need to take care of your home financially, you're going to go where they pay you.
There has to be something else to it, why they can't get their own parking lot. Like, there has to be something, if it's free money, there has to be something of why anyone would think, I don't think you should get your own free money. Am I missing something there?
Because if we don't use it, it's just like the other ARPA money. We don't take it back.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So just so we clear here, it's just the ideal. It's not the money is yours. That's never the problem. It's just that, like I tell my children, if you come to me and you ask me for $80, I'm gonna give you $80. But if you needed $180, you should have asked me for $180. That's all I'm saying. It just makes sense to ask for what you need right then and there.
I think they are asking for what they need.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So I do have a follow-up question for Mr. Suttles. So this, the ARPA money, can it be used for anything other than salary?
I believe it's only for salaries.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Can we verify that?
It is. I can verify that.
It is only for salary.
I can verify that, and so can Ms. Anderson. Go ahead.
Will we have that other clause if we don't have the funds next year? Will that be in writing where you said that they won't take the raise? Will that be presented in writing? I know you're saying it, but is that something that's going to be in writing, that if the funds aren't available to continue that they won't take the raise?
But they still have the MOU. Is it expire to 2025? Okay. So I just want to make sure, I was getting clarity from Mr. Settles. So what he's saying is the MOU that we're negotiating now and the contract that they're currently in expire at the exact same time. So there is no more up. At the point in which we are negotiating in 2025 for 2026, that will be at a fresh start and have a better understanding of where we're going to be financially as a city. Some of the, all of this free money, if you want to call it that, will settle down and we will know where we stand. And they're saying we won't take it. And I mean, you can't negotiate what isn't there.
So that's the raise that that Ms. Anderson was talking about, that she said that they won't take a raise?
Yes. She's saying that we will be in a position as a city that we are not required to negotiate an additional 5% in the MOU or the contract. It will be at least where it stands, or, I mean, there's no contract to hold us to anything.
So basically, it goes back to what it was before we agreed.
Not back to what
There's
it,
nothing.
I'm sorry.
There's no contract in.
Right. I mean,
It's
I'm just saying, it goes
played
to the
simple.
original contract that's in place now.
There's no, once the contract expires, it expires, it's no more. So it will be where they are,
And then-
the raises that they were brought to, and our negotiations will happen from there or remain the same.
So the negotiation, when we go to negotiate for 2025, we'll be negotiating what was increased through this MO. So that will be what they'll be negotiating with us.
That'll be our starting point.
Right. We won't be going back
And
to
honestly,
what the contract was.
I will tell you,
We won't.
Ms. Zorb or anyone else that would like to attend or come to those negotiations, council members are free to sit in. Right.
Madam Chair.
He had one more thing, and then I'll.
Yep.
So we did discuss how we didn't do like a formal hiring process like really recently, but when there was the whole resignation thing kind of going on, people were actually reaching out and applying to our department, and Ms. Nichols talked about this last time we had our meeting here for the Finance Committee, and the people that were applying, most of them didn't have any certifications at all, and if they did, they were extremely new, like just fresh out of school, and a lot of them didn't have paramedics. They were just EMT basics, and we're really trying to attract paramedics because that's what we need now is paramedics, just because they can do more.
So if we're clear there, I will definitely attach this current MOU. You guys can email Bill any further questions about it. I'm so sorry. I'll attach this current MOU and send it on to Bill. I did not do that yet because we had the opportunity to talk about it again in Budget and Finance. I copied him on the email that I sent to all of you, but I'm going to give him the go-ahead to attach it to the legislation, and he send that back to us to send to Christian Hedger for the August meeting. I ask you to please look at the part-time MOU. It's right behind this. It's in tandem with the ARPA money. It's the same situation, but they are under a different union, so we have to negotiate them separately. It has to be two different sets of legislation. And so I just want to make sure that you guys are prepared for those or the next conversation. I would have liked to get into that tonight, but we are late in the hour, and that is not absolutely necessary, so we'll move on. Thank you. Okay, the city building, I'm sorry. The city building update, we need to talk about this, but it is 9:30. I'm gonna ask you all where you all, because we still have to go into executive session, and there are 2 must-have items that we need to talk about, but we do need to figure out what we're going to do with the city building, and we'll start the conversations. If you would like, I can schedule another meeting to talk about that specifically, to give us time, because we do have 2 items that are a must. We have to have a conversation on our executive
Madam
session.
Chair?
Yes.
So, there is, I would like to, get, I know you had said that there's 4, responses out there, and we only have 1. I would like to see the rest of them. And I know I talked to, Ms. Anderson tonight. We still have city, like, general ARPA funds that have to be spent by the end of the year, and I'm wondering if we could use some of those on this.
Right. That's why I said that's an extensive.
But again, that has to be encumbered before the end of the year, so we can't keep
I don't
want to
keep pushing it down the road, but that's why I was asking that the other committees kind of yield their time, because this is super robust, and we have time deadlines in this financial, the budget and finance meeting that we have to meet. But we are 9:30. If you guys want to dig into it now, I'm fine too.
I
But
would
I
like to
also
have all
want-
the documents before we dig into it.
We cannot go through 4 assessments in one night. It would be nearly impossible, especially since we have executive session. You have to trust the judgment that I've read all of them, and that we can go through the ones that we can go through and then move on. We don't have the ability to go through all of them.
I take objection to you withholding information from other council members. We are adults, we are professionals. We can read those documents on our own time prior to coming here, so that we have a better knowledge of what's going on in those, what those offers present.
I don't have any issue sending them out. I'll tell you, one of the issues that I didn't send out some of them is because Ms. Brunner got the quotes for the assessment for one of them, and I don't have access to her email. I email IT, and they're following up with me with that. So that was some of the reason. What I project, so to get back to what we need to handle is, do you all want to proceed with this one tonight, or do you want to schedule another meeting?
I do not want to, I don't want to talk about this tonight if I don't have all the information.
I need to schedule another meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I agree. I would rather have them all, and then we can talk, kind of compare and contrast.
I just prefer a meeting we able to sit down and talk. Said I just prefer a meeting that we can all sit down and talk.
We're talking.
But that require, okay.
A meeting for just this, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
And she said
that's
it's intensive, so.
Okay, so I'm trying to pull this documentation up for, I would like to enter into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges of complaints against a public employee, official, licensed, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensed, or regulated individual requests a public hearing, except as otherwise provided by law. No public body shall be held in executive session for the discipline of an elected official, for the conduct related to performance of the elected officials' official duties, for the elected officials' removal from office. If a public body holds an executive session pursuant of division of this action, the motion and votes to be held executive session shall state which one or more of the approved purposes listed in the division of this section are the purposes for which the executive session to be held, but need not name of any person to be considered at the meeting. And in this meeting, I'd like to invite all of council and mayor for a portion of it, and then I will ask mayor to excuse herself, and then it will just be council.
Okay.